Free Sport live and exclusive in full stereo and glorious colour today. The city of Wellington, the harbour capital, is lined up and ready, along with the drivers, some of the best touring car drivers in the world, ready to start this year's Nissan Mobil 500. Joining us today for our Free Sport commentary, expert comments from top New Zealand motor racing drivers David Oxton and Brian Lawrence. It's been a great weekend so far. We are now down to the big moment, the start of the great race. What's going through the minds of the drivers? For example, David Oxton, Emmanuel Perot.
Well, Manuel is such a cool customer. He's fresh from a big victory at Macau last weekend, a touring car victory, a very special one for him. We've said he's at the peak of his career. He's super fit. He's very confident. He's got the pole. He didn't expect to get that. I think he's just so cool. Look for this guy for a real top result.
Also just going down through the field there, as you can see, Emmanuel Perot, Brian Lawrence, your impressions of this fantastic Schnitzer German team?
I think it's probably one of the slickest operations we've ever had here in New Zealand. They're totally professional, and they've set very, very high standards right from the word go. Charlie Lamb, they say he's a little surprised to be on pole, but that man's a winner from the time he wakes up in the morning.
And here is the big battle that's going to unfold today over the next 4 hours with the 500-kilometre race. Jimmy Richards and Mark Scaife for the Nissan GTR, and it's Mark Scaife at the wheel, according to our stats car number 2. After winning Bathurst, they said, right, let's go to Wellington and beat that Schnitzer team. Here's the man that's driven with David Oxton before, Peter Brock. Peter Perfect. How will his racing lines be today, David?
Well, he's so relaxed this weekend, which is kind of nice. You know, I know he is always cool, but he's willing to help everyone. He's willing to talk to everyone. But I think he's quietly confident. He knows the Wellington weather's as unpredictable as Parliament, and he's going to go for it as soon as we see some damp.
Now, it's not a flying start, is it? It's the rolling start, correct?
It's a rolling start. 30 seconds, they'll move off behind the pace car. Flashing lights don't mean anything at all. It's just to draw your attention to it.
And then the next time they come round after the warm-up lap, we should get the green light. Now, what are the drivers trying to do here with the tyres? They're doing the zigzagging all over the track, aren't they? Is that nerves, or is that just for the tyres?
Well, it is a tyre warm-up thing. Obviously, they're trying to make us enough. These tyres only really grip when they're hot. So they feed a bit of temperature in by wheeling left to right to make the outside of the tyres, the working areas, really grip. But back in the pack there, those guys, if you can imagine at home what it feels like walking on wet, say a wet surface with bare feet, they feel like that inside. They're tight, they're shaking. It's a big, big moment for the guys.
You'll be watching with the Mobil 1 car cams today from the bumper of Peter Brock's Holden Commodore. Just apologise for losing the link today. We're having a bit of trouble with the link through the helicopters. It's very windy. Of course, the satellite link has to go up to the chopper, back down to our OB track. As you can see, that's looking back from the car of Emmanuel Perot back onto the Nissan GTR. This is looking forward back onto the track. And the face cams of Mark Scaife at the wheel of the Nissan GTR. Godzilla in God's own. Peter Brock. Back to Scaife. Warming up the tyres, getting the nerves set. Some fantastic pictures you'll be seeing today. A field of 42, the largest since '87. As they come around by the overseas sweeper. The conditions today, it's overcast and cool. If it becomes wet later on today, we could see a very different race from what we're going to see at the start.
Pace car will pull off when he's happy, everything is looking good, the form up is nice. And it's in the hands of the drivers to responsibly build up speed for a clean start.
They've also got to hold their line too and get themselves set in the racing lines on the grid positions. Top 10, Perot, Richards, Scaife, Longhurst, Brock, Johnson, Baldock, Scott, Holm, Barrow, Billington. The tension starting to build in this year's Nissan Mobil 500. We are just seconds away as the pace car looks like it's going to go down to pit lane. No, it's going to come down through the main straight. The field lining up, a field of 42 for the great race in '91, the Nissan Mobil 500. Do we get the green light? We are racing, and look at that start by Michael Scaife. What a start on the rocket ship. Skate right down to the hairpin, takes the lead from the pole position of Emmanuel Pirot. Then it's Longhurst, Brock, Johnson, Riley, Scott. That's the Scott Riley car as they head up towards the Nissan Mobil 500 gates, and a great start by the Nissan GTR.
What a magic start. You see that twin turbo really just blast the power down past the BMW. The BMW struggles a little bit when it's full of fuel, but don't worry, that'll come back. But the Godzilla has got this race by the throat, thrusting out. Mark Skaife doing it great.
So a fantastic start by the Nissan as the field now move through the very quick part of the circuit. It's the bumpy roads down the bumps of Cable Street.
So it's Pirot, it's Longhurst, it's Brock. There's a big lock-up from Brett Riley.
Kane Scott.
There's a problem here. He's straight off the escape road.
So it's Kane Scott who's been at the wheel of the Trans Am in the Big Sierra, and this time he's lost it first time round in the first lap. So a dramatic start for the Brett Riley, Kane Scott team with Scott at the wheel. But here is Skaife, Mark Skaife, Pirot second, Longhurst third.
Well, we've got one of the rescue cars out on the circuit already. One of the Toyota Corollas is circulating out there with the back end very, very badly damaged, and they've put the rescue car out. So this is going to already bring the race to a momentarily slow as they run under the yellows, which are being given now. That's the Keith Sharp Castrol BMW, firmly jammed into the fence. Certainly not a good place to be for a guy who runs a driving school.
Well, that must have been a start incident. Obviously, it just didn't get off the grid. Maybe got drop-kicked or sideways at the flagpole, or the rolling start fall. But already the top three are easing away from Dick Johnson. The Sierras are struggling this year to run with the pace of these BMWs and, of course, Godzilla. But Brocky doing a great job there with the Mobil Commodore. Sounds like 1,000,000 miles an hour and goes like it. Just look at those three guys there.
So it's Skaife, Pirot, Longhurst, Brock, Johnson. And then it's Kevin Waldock coming down Denny Hall. Then it goes back to car 44, Dave Barrow down the front straight. There's been an incident with the Corolla. We'll pick up that action in just a moment as it's Skaife winding around through towards the overseas sweeper. And there's car number 13.
It's Bob Holden.
Toyota Corolla.
It's Bob Holden from Australia. That was an amazing blow-up or something. There was flames and sparks, and he's parked it out of the way. Already the circuit is starting to get littered up with cars. We've got one stopped on the front straight here. We've got Bob Holden parked down there. The officials will be looking hard. They're now past the point where they can stop the race and go back to a brand new race. After 2 laps, whatever happens then, if the race is stopped, it becomes a little bit more complex. It's called another race, and they add the first bit to the second bit. Clark, of course, is out there. He's having a look. This is a neat way of doing things. He's checking it out, making sure what the problems are. No problems for this man, Mark Skaife. Manueli taking advantage of the yellow flag situation. Remember, he cannot pass, but he can close up. You're technically supposed to slow, but maybe only about by half a K.
We'll just check out the incident involving the Bob Holden Toyota Corolla going down the main straight. It's the overall protected replay, as you can see there, and fire screaming out from the back of the wheel and the back of the car. So a dramatic, sensational start to this year's Nissan Mobil 500. So what's going on there?
It's probably just the hot oil burning on the exhaust system as it ventilates and gets rid of it all. Very, we promised you action. It's really there.
Well, we promised you a hot start, and that's exactly what you've got here on 3 Sport. So it's Skaife at the wheel. He's been super quick in testing. He's done a lot of work setting this car up right throughout the entire year. That's the reason why he's starting first with Jimmy Richards, the changeover. Fantastic shot from the Armco there. Talking to Freddie Gibson last night, he said all they did to this car was put in some fresh twin turbos, change the brakes, and the basic plan of attack, BL, was to go flat out.
Well, that's what he said, run it at race pace. It's a good, strong car, there's no question of that. But Emmanuel Pirot sitting in behind him, keeping an eye on things, but now they're starting to already get in amongst the tail enders, and this is going to be one of the problems that the faster drivers are going to be faced right through the 500 kilometres this afternoon. And if you're clever enough, sometimes you can use this to your advantage if you're getting pursued by somebody else, where you can just slot into a corner and put that the car that you're lapping in between you and whoever's behind you, the hunter that's after you. And this is where you'll see some of the top drivers, the Johnsons and the Brocks and co. You watch them through the traffic, they're dynamite.
So it's Scapey down the back straight. Don't forget the yellow flag is still out. They're not allowed to pass each other.
Well, Clint, the yellow flag situation now at every point indicates to everyone, you know, just don't be stupid, guys. Just be ready for a problem, because in this situation, there's safety to be considered by the marshals, the people that run the event. 350, 400 people here controlling this event, and they put their lives on the line. But what they've got to try and decide what to do here, they've got to say, how are we going to get this car off the front straight? Because it's semi-blocking the track. It's quite a long way to get it moved. Do we bring a tow vehicle out? Do we send some guys out and push it away? Big problems. So we've got the pace car out there. I think what will happen very shortly, they will start to form behind that car.
I can't believe that they've left that car in the middle of the straight, that nobody's actually got over and moved it. It's got an official vehicle there in front of it. So it's warning the other cars, and we've been advised that the tow truck is on its way.
Okay, we do know that the tow truck has been sent out. Here it is. Not the nicest thing to meet on your way around. This is the Mobil, well, the streets in Nissan Mobil if you're at racing speed. So the pace car is out there. Literally, the rules say you must not pass the pace car. It will come out wherever it feels. It may be in front of the first guy, it may be in front of the fifth guy. It doesn't matter. You don't pass the pace car unless indicated to do so by the man in the back seat.
We'll try and get an update on that situation regarding to Keith Sharp at the start of that BMW M3 with our men in the pits, Murray Taylor and also John Carville, to see exactly what happened. Let's take a look at the field now as it's inside the Mobil car cam of Peter Brock, who's right up behind Tony Longhurst. And the shots today coming via the ABC, which is the outfit that do the car cams for Channel 9 with the Adelaide Grand Prix in Australia. So we'll take a short break and we'll be back with the restart of this year's Nissan Mobil 500. Remember, the pace car is out there. They're under the yellow flag. So it's been a day of drama already in the first 10 minutes of this year's great race. Sport. This is the race start, as you can see here, as they come down through from one of the car cams, and a flying start here by Mark Scape, getting up inside Emanuele Pirro down into the hairpin, and a superb drive by the flyer. First round, the first corner, and Scape got off to a ripper. That's it again as they stream round with Scape taking the lead from pole position from Emanuele Pirro, then Longhurst, Brock, Johnson, and then it's Waldock, Scott, Holm, Barrow and Billington. But that was the start. And also involved in the start was an incident with Keith Sharp and the Castrol BMW M3, which has now been moved from the track, with the details of what actually happened with that. Here's Keith Sharp with our pit stop pit report with John Carville.
Well, Keith Sharp, exactly what did happen?
Well, we were coming around on the first lap. The lights went green. As we were coming onto the front straight, somebody hit me on the back right-hand corner. And the next thing I know, I was bouncing off walls. They put me into a spin, and it was all over before the race had even started properly.
You gave me a fright. I was watching. I turned around, and I saw you back in the pits getting a big hug. You were being consoled. It must be awful for you. All this preparation and all over before you even cross the start line.
Oh, it is. The disappointment is just incredible. No, we haven't had a good run. We had a bad run at Bathurst, and we put a lot of work and development into the car and a lot of money, and to have the race thrown away like this is just very, very disappointing.
As a professional racing instructor, what would be your advice to the person that hit you?
I'd like to take them out and give them a few more lessons, I think, because to drive like that on the opening lap of an endurance race is really just not called for. It's quite irrational and quite stupid.
Well, there we are, Keith Sharp in the BMW. He's out of the event. And Clint, I can tell you that as well as Keith, there are a number of other cars down here in the pits. So the attrition rate already is starting to be a big one at the Nissan Mobil 500.
So we're back with the pace car lap situation, as we said to you. Remember, while the pace car is out there, every lap counts. It's still a race. They're still on. It's a lap total race, 156 laps of this Nissan Mobil event. chance to take in some magic shots from some of the terrific cameras we've got working here. This is obviously the Mobil 1 car cam in Peter Brock's bumper, and it looks up there at Tony Longhurst's beautiful little BMW M3. Now just watch those brake lights coming on. What Tony is doing there is trying to keep some temperature in the brakes. He's got his foot on the throttle, his right foot on the throttle, and he's touching the brake pedal with his left foot just to keep the brake temperature warm, so that when the green light comes back on, he's back on it hard, going for it.
So we're still waiting to see what the situation is with the restart, the flag, or the field under yellow. Mark Scaife, a fantastic start. That's the reason why Freddie Gibson put him out there in the Nissan GTR, the car that is one of the hot favourites to win the race this year. And this is looking back on the BMW. And this is the other BMW of the Emanuele Pirro and Joachim Winkelhock, the 3-Sport Castrol BMW M3, the big brother of last year's winner, which is right in your picture right now.
Peter Brock there weaving a little bit in the background. This isn't a good time for the guys because they were all G'd up. They get mentally wound to get ready for the big punchy start. When they have to cool it like this, it throws them, and they have to sort of consider all of alternative plans. Are we all right for fuel? What will this do to the stops? So that the momentum is lost. The pace car forms up. Now, as the pace car rule goes, he will now take the field round for one full lap. The lights are out on the pace car. That indicates to the pits that the start lap has, or the form lap has now commenced. At the end of this lap, the start will recommence. It's the same race. It's just as if we've had a few slow laps.
Well, we certainly have with that little incident, and such a bit of bad luck for Keith Sharp and Ian Spurl out before they cross the start-finish line. That is really bad luck, and they'll be, as you heard there, talking to John Cardwell, just absolutely devastated. And also, Kane Scott, no doubt, will be checking out that corner in the Whittaker's Peanut Slab Ford Sierra after overshooting that one. We'll see if he's still out there in the field with the restart as well. And some of the Corollas catching fire. And don't forget, the winner of this race, 4 hours or 500 kilometres, whatever comes first. Last year was a war of attrition. That's why the field just get ready for the restart. Peter Brock will be talking to him today with David Oxton, also talking to Jim Richards and Mark Scaife at the wheel of the Nissan GTR to see what it's like from the driver's point of view. Peter Brock and Dickie Johnson remarkably relaxed this weekend.
Just go down to the left front corner of Peter Brock's car. The spoiler, I just noticed, seemed to be coming a little bit adrift on the left-hand front corner of the nose. The spoiler is the air dam. It looks like the thing.
Can you hear me now, Dave?
See if we can have a word with Peter Brock here. Peter, we can hear you loud and clear. Tell us what's going on out there, man. TV3 to Peter Brock. Can you hear us? Well, just at this time, Peter's probably got a crossed line there with his real working area. We're sort of piggybacking the system, and no doubt we'll get him when he's free and able to talk to us.
Okay, just about set now for a restart, and once again it's Mark Scaife who's got that flying start down into the hairpin. He's off to a ripper. Emanuele Pirro holding second. Tony Longhurst third. Peter Brock and the big Commodore fourth. Then it's Dick Johnson fifth in the Sierra. Denny Holm sixth in the BMW as they wind their way through the gates. We are racing again in the Nissan Mobil 500.
Well, there's no doubt about it. Skate seemed to be the only one that was really wide awake when that came, because they've all got the opportunity to bunch up and behind each other. But when they let them go, there was only about 4 or 5 of them who were really on the case. And Skate's taken advantage of this. Look at the gap already. He's gone.
Well, I'm going to say that's a little bit of a single-seater experience involving himself here, because in single-seater racing, you learn to stand on the gas immediately the flag drops, because you've got to get that advantage. The Touring-Car endurance boys usually kind of roll into things, but not Mark Scaife. He's hard on it.
Winner of the Formula Brabant class in Australia, showing his experience in the single-seaters. And he's a hell of a nice guy too, Scaife, just like all the guys in the Nissan team. They love their motor racing. In fact, Brocky, Johnson, all these guys are really right up there, aren't they? And just love the sport.
Jim Richards fans don't take any notice of the fact that Jim is not starting in this race first. Simply a decision made on practical experience here. Mark's done most of the testing at the circuit. He was more familiar with the car under racing conditions at the start of the race with a full load of gas. And that's the decisions. Fred Gibson makes decisions based upon winning races, not emotions.
What about the smoke that you see puffing out the side every now and then?
No, we know this wonderful technical masterpiece, the Nissan GTR, has got twin turbo, and it's literally forcing the fuel through the exhaust system and out the back. So you're seeing a little bit of unburnt fuel coming out. It isn't a problem.
Down this part of the circuit, it is absolutely fantastic watching it live on the track. The noise and the speed of that car going into that corner is amazing. Now it's Peter Brock all over Tony Longhurst. Can the Commodore move up into third place? Let's stay with the battle for first, with Scaife out in front, Pirot second, and Brocky all over the bumper of Tony Longhurst. Well, he was until he hit the bumps.
Look at that car leaving the ground. I mean, there must be 4 or 5 inches of clearance between the tyre. Let's just see what Brocky's doing in terms of putting pressure on Tony Longhurst. Let's go quiet. Watch this.
Travelling in the front bumper of Peter Brock's Commodore. Behind the Benson and Hedges BMW, driven by the Queenslander Tony Longhurst.
A man who enjoys a good street scrap, and that's exactly what he's got now. There's his wall. That's where he kissed it in practice the other day as Brocky closes up right under braking. Which would have the advantage under brakes, the BMW or the Commodore?
Well, the brakes are huge on both cars, so at this time, I guess Peter will probably use Tony as some sort of a braking marker. He'll just say, wherever you go to, I'll just come up on you, because he knows then what he can do. But this is a good psychological... Brocky will be smiling about this, because he knows the BMW probably isn't as quick as the other car, for whatever reason, and he's getting himself into a good groove. He's got his lines right. He'll be ready to take the place off Tony if he can do it, but in the meantime, he's just needling him.
So fantastic action from the streets of Wellington, live and exclusive from the bumper of Peter Brock's Holden Commodore. When we come back, the race continues, so stay with us here on 3 Sport. Welcome back to 3 Sport as we update the race situation and the race pace with the current placings. First at the moment on the road, car number 2, Mark Scaife at the wheel of the Nissan GTR. Car number 1 running second, Emmanuel Pirot in the BMW M3. That's the battle of the 2 big guns at the top. And Tony Longhurst right up there on the pace at car number 25, third. Peter Brock second in the Commodore. Then it's Dick Johnson in the Sierra, followed by Denny Holm racing 6th on the road, doing a fantastic job. And the little BMW M3. Kevin Waldock, car 28. The second of the Sierra is running 7th, followed by Dave Barrow in car 44. The Waikanae Wonder and John Billington, another local Wellingtonian, in 9th place. The last page looking at the front runners, it's Kane Scott in the Whittaker's Sierra, followed by the first of the Porsches, Evans driving that Porsche 911 right up there in 11th place, going according to the lap times and qualifying at the moment. And then it's another Porsche with Nigel Arkle and Dave Slater. You're on board, Mark Scaife, as close as you can get to the streets of Wellington and to the walls.
Well, just looking down from our commentary position here is that the Mark Scaife crew are already down here. We could be seeing Mark Scaife, our race leader in today's Nissan Mobil 500, making an unscheduled pit stop. The crew are down here at the ready. There's instructions being not shouted, but carefully calculated in all directions. The crew are down there with the guns. But let's just see exactly what's happening with Mark Scaife. Topping it up with fuel, they're doing the wheels. There doesn't seem to be any major mechanical changes going on. They brought in. Is this all part of Fred Gibson's plans? We'll be getting our pit stop pit report down there from John Cardwell and Murray Taylor.
Let's go down to John Cardwell to see if we can have a quick catch up with Fred Gibson, see what that unscheduled pit stop was all about, because they've dropped back to 5th place from leading the race, and there is Fred Gibson with Jimmy Richards. Looks a bit worried, and John Cardwell, and at the moment Freddie Gibson is just going over to check the situation with his pit crew. But meanwhile, back on the race,
it's probably got to be a dud set of tyres or a slow puncher they were worried about. They've obviously had communication. It's got to be something wrong with that first set of tyres.
well, it certainly means we've now got a race back on our hands after he was like the hare that cleared out from the rest of the field. It was like run, rabbit, run. And talking of action on the track, this is how Scaife going in to the hairpin, and just keep your eye on car number 61 coming in division soon. It's a Toyota Corolla as Scaife goes down through the gears, and here comes the little wee Toyota Corolla of Chris Marr. Bang, straight into the walls of Wellington. Car number 61 trying to keep out of the way, and then getting in the way in front of Tony Longhurst and hitting the wall on the other side. So a nightmare for the Marr man.
Nearly a nightmare for Frank Gardner. There's a wheel parting company. Obviously couldn't stand the pace of kissing the Armco.
So it's all action with the Armour All protected replay, and Dave Barrow almost getting caught with that loose wheel on the track too.
I suppose all you can put that down to is just absolute total lack of experience, and even looking in the rear vision.
Brian
He's paid a high price for this, and he almost took Longhurst with him.
Brian, as a former tyre specialist, you think that is a little bit out of balance? He's probably got a bit of a shake there, hasn't he?
I think they're going to have to put that back on the machine.
So, unbelievable action already. That's Emmanuel Pirro, the new leader. Let's go down to find out what happened with Mark Scaife. John Cardwell talking to Fred Gibson.
Well, actually, Fred doesn't want to talk to anybody. I'm sorry, Clint, but I did ask the Yokohama tyre people, Keith McCormick, what the problem was, and he told me that Mark Scaife thought he had a puncture, and that is why he came into the pit. I'll try one more time. Fred, can we just ask you what the problem was?
I don't know.
All right, well, there you are. Well, I've got it from Yokohama that it was a tyre problem. They thought they had a puncture. That's why he came in. Fred's denying it. Well, you sort it out for yourself up there, Clint and David.
Well, I guess that's just, it's all a feeling thing. You can't, a driver is still basically trying to make assessments of how the car feels. If he makes the wrong decision with this wonderful thing called hindsight, someone's bound to say, well, why didn't you come in and let's just have a look at it before you stuck it in the wall? So he's got the time, he's got the pace, he's taken the choice to get in there, see if it was a dud tyre, get a fresh set of boots and out there. He's dropped a few places, he's back to first, puts Manuel back in the, or Pirro in the front, but no problem. It's not really a big issue. There's still a lot of racing.
And as Fred Gibson says, he doesn't know the problem because he doesn't know at this stage. So there is Nissan. Was in front, but now in front it's Emmanuel Pirro. And car number 1, the 3-Sport Castrol BMW M3. The gap will be back to car 25, Tony Longhurst, who would have lost a bit of ground after being involved in that incident with the Chris Marr Toyota Corolla. So it's BMW 1 and 2 at the moment, leading the Nissan Mobil 500. Peter Brock will be in 3rd place. Dick Johnson back in 4th. And now Mark Scaife and the Nissan GTR in 5th place.
The Queenslander will be very happy with this performance. He is really on the case, and Mark Scaife further down the field is coming back up through the field like nobody's business. I don't think they'll actually be too concerned. As David said, there's a lot of racing to go yet, and he had such a commanding lead when he went out, and there's no reason at all with a fresh set of rubber why he can't get that back again. They've only stretched his fuel stop a little bit longer because they topped that up as well.
Tony Longhurst, what, about 4 seconds down, 4.3 seconds down on the leader, Emanuele Pirro. Here's Peter Brock, working hard at the wheel of the 05 Holden Commodore, currently lying on the road in third place.
Brocky has had some action and traction up the front there. The old bumper's taken a bit of a kiss. I think probably the first turn there at the start of the race, he's probably just given, what do they call it, a Liberace on the car up front. And,
yeah, just a nudge from behind.
Kiwi fans, remember, Group N, the guys leading at the moment, Greg Gowdy and Neil Allport, rally man in the lovely little white Sierra. Now that Nissan is back in pit road, will bring the action.
Right, there's drama down on the pits, and it's the Nissan back into the pits. Let's find out what the action is with our pit reporter, John Carble. Can you find out what's going on, John?
Well, just underneath the car at the moment, the mechanic's having a look. There's the camera shot to show you what they're doing under there. And now there's words going on. Mark Scaife talking to Fred Gibson through the headset. And it seems to be something obviously underneath with the suspension or tyres. Thumbs up from one of the mechanics. Let's just see. They're waiting for the jacks to come off. Now they're going back underneath the car again. It's something to do with steering or suspension at the front of the car. They're looking at it again. Here come the jacks are off and the car's out again. Now we'll try one more time to find out from Fred what the problem is. Freddie, can you tell us? Can you tell us what it is?
No, we haven't got a clue.
All right.
What was wrong with it? I'll tell you what was wrong with it. I don't know.
What is Mark saying to you?
It's just oversteering bad.
All right, okay. Well, there you go. That's all we can tell you from the Nissan pit at this stage anyway. But they're in and out again.
And real drama too. We'll take a look back at that way in which Mark Scaife got round the hairpin, because he actually got in the way of the leading car, Emanuele Pirro, and he actually hit him as they went round the hairpin. So real drama for the Nissan team. It's such a shame because the car has been in such fantastic form in qualifying and testing. But a really dicey moment there between the two top front runners.
Well, I take back what I say. The Nissan team is in trouble. You can have one stop and get away with it. The second stop, when you're still scratching your head, and then you come out and you saw across the nose of the guy that's leading the race, you're back up against the wall. Let's see if we can have a look at the action on that first turn.
Here's the Armour All protected replay. Scaife racing out and just clipped straight in front of the leading car, Emanuele Pirro. You won't be too pleased about that.
Scaife just did not have his mind on the job. I'm sorry, that's the only answer for that.
And that's a sign of the pressure with the Nissan team under at the moment, because they're not too sure exactly what's wrong with that car, and it actually took out one of our cameras too.
Well, let's reflect on this problem here. What we've got is Mark not happy with either suspension grip or vibration. We know that in the past he's had tyres that are vibrating. When you get a vibration, you can, I seem to remember this car having this once before at Bathurst. They came in with it and worried about tyre balance, but it could be something mechanical. So they're not going to make a commitment to us until they've assessed it themselves.
All right, we'll keep an idea of just how quick the Nissan GTR is going. It's now flipped back to, at this stage, back to 10th place. So after a fantastic start, it's now well off the pace, and it's dropped further back down the field after two unscheduled pit stops. First on the road, number one, the 3-Sport Castrol BMW M3, Emanuele Pirro. Second, Tony Longhurst. Third, Peter Brock in the Holden Commodore. And Brian Lawrence, just how quick is that leading BMW going at this stage?
1 minute 28.99 seconds. He's really on the case. There's no doubt about it, but we'll check up and see what we can get from Mark Scaife's time, because he's in a big hurry. He's got an awful lot of ground to make up.
Tell you what, the big mover has got to be Tony Longhurst. He's hauled away from Brocky, and he's closing in on Emanuele. Although Emanuele had a bit of a problem, let's have a look at the action from the camera with Brocky.
Peter Brock at the moment, his quickest lap has been a 1:29 on the road in the Holden Commodore. He's currently lying third. When we come back, the battle resumes in this year's Nissan Mobil 500.
Welcome back to the Nissan Mobil 500, and it's situation normal for the BMW team. Nissans are in trouble. We don't know what it is yet. Fred Gibson hasn't got the facts for us, but confirming the placings at this time, Manuel Pirro leading the #1 BMW M3 for the Schnitzer team from Tony Longhurst. Car number 25, all the way from Australia in last year's winning BMW. Peter Brock in the Mobil 1 Commodore. Dickie Johnson in the Shell Ford Sierra. The turbo car number 17 picks up 4th from Waldock, and a sister car to that. And of course, Denny Holm, New Zealand's favourite son, in car 54, the BMW M3. BMWs, 3 of them in the top 6, not looking too badly.
Back onto race action. This is the Kevin Waldock, Graham Crosby, Ford Sierra Cosworth. As David said, running in 5th position at the moment. A minute 135.1 is their best lap time. A good consistent performer as Waldock. The car's prepared by expatriate New Zealander Ross Stone, domiciled up there in Queensland.
And they've spent over $2 million on the development of this car.
There'll be one real good Kiwi looking for a drive in this car. Graham Crosby, our favourite TV commentator come racer, he's sitting anxiously in the pits, hoping that car stays nice and clean so he can have a good ride here today. This car is regarded as one of the better handling Ford Sierras. Ross Stone, a world-class engineer, his brother looks after the interests of Tony Longhurst. That's Jimmy Stone, but Ross looks after this car. And I believe he has got skills that are making the suspension on this car work beautifully for Wellington. So Kevin Waldock loving this drive here. But meanwhile, just ahead of that car, of course, Dickie Johnson, multi-winner of the Australian Touring Car Championship. He's got a little bit of damage up front there on the right front corner, but nothing much to worry about. If you can come out of this race with nothing more than a bashed front bumper, you're doing pretty good. Dickie's not really expected to win. I've got to say, as much as he's going to do his best, realistically, the number of stops that car might have to make, scheduled or unscheduled, against the mighty BMWs that even Brocky's holding, he's got a problem on his hands, but he'll give it his best. He's never had a real good run at Wellington. He's had a 1 second place to his credit.
Third last year.
3rd place last year. Going round overseas turn.
And back in Queensland, Neil Lowe working hard on developing the new Ford Falcon, which they hope to debut halfway through the Australian Touring Car Championships next year, and get set for the enduro races at Sandown and Bathurst, and hopefully here on the streets in Wellington in 1992.
Dick Johnson, of course, sharing this car with young Paul Radis, who's from New Zealand, so plenty of Kiwi interest in this race.
It's the John Bow car from the Australian Touring Car Championship, so it's set up exactly the way that Tricky Dicky likes it. Here's the leading car, the BMW M3 of the Castrol 3 Sport team, along with Charlie Lamb, team manager. What will be going through his mind at the moment?
Well, he's got a lot to consider. He is a strategist. He's not only looking at what his car is doing, you could see him look across. He's got his left eye firmly on what Nissan is doing with their car. And whatever they do controls a little bit of how he plays his game. Whether to keep the pace of the race up. We've had a few sensational laps from Manuel Pirro. He's down under the 1 minute 30 already. But I think he'd like to cruise it back to about a 1:32. It's nicer on the car.
What's been his quickest time, BL? You looked into what, a 1:28 and 1:26 in qualifying.
He's cruising at the moment at a 1:28.99. Now that's not a bad pace, but the fastest man on the road is Mark Scaife at the moment. He's at 28.3. But what does look very impressive up on our screen here is Peter Brock's time at a 1:29.6. So despite the size of the Commodore, it's still very much on the case.
So we've got a real race on our hands with the BMW M3 out in front. Scaife trying to catch up and make up for lost time. Peter Brock, Tony Longhurst also very quick on the road too. Manuel Pirro, fresh from success at the Macau Grand Prix last weekend in another BMW. He won 3 races in the Italian Touring Car Championships. At this stage, he's 5 seconds in front of Tony Longhurst, who's currently riding second. But we're standing by for a pit report with John Carville, because the word is the Nissan GTR of Mark Scaife and Jimmy Richards may be coming back into the pits for the 3rd time. So far, this race has actually been the pits. So here is the action. Mark Scaife, John Carville take it over.
Right, there's the fuel going in at the back of the car, and the jacks are up. The wheels are coming off again. By crikey, look at that flame coming out of the exhaust. She's running rich down here in the pits. Now they've got the wheels off. There's a mechanic right underneath the car, right underneath there, and they're working on, let me get under it myself and have a look. I'll try and dig it in for you. They're working on something to do with the drive line. Meanwhile, the door is open, and they're talking to Mark through the headset. Keith McCormick from Yokohama just checking out the tyres. Keith, have you got any idea what's going on here?
No, I don't.
Well, that's the tyre man. He's happy with his product. Now they're looking underneath the suspension on the right-hand rear side, and the mechanics are right in under there, digging around. Now we'll try and get a word up front and see if we can find out any more for you down here in the pit area. No, Fred's busy talking to Mark. Mark's taking a drink. They're looking around at each other. This is serious. This is serious stuff, folks. I can tell you, David, you're right. 2 pit stops is not good. Now this is 3rd, and the engine is off. The engine has been switched off. Jimmy Richards, I'm sorry, mate, to interrupt. I know you're busy. What is the story, mate? Any idea? No. He's had to walk away. I'll try again. Freddie, any idea?
No idea.
You got the back off.
I got an idea. I would tell you what's wrong. I got no idea.
I'm sorry to keep asking him.
He's oversteering like a mad dog.
Righto, there you go. That's the best we can do for you, David, at this stage. Oversteering.
So that's John Carville with that pit stop, pit report, and a dramatic day for the Nissan GTR. Godzilla's in, and as you can see, Freddie Gibson, the frustration of racing here on the walls of Wellington. He doesn't know what's wrong with the car. Meanwhile, the action continues at the pits under the car of Dick Johnson and Paul Radisich.
Isn't it amazing that these million-dollar cars can beat themselves around Bathurst to so much success, and by the time they get to Wellington, they can't hack it. The bumps are really giving these cars a hard time. I'm sure there's something in that.
Dick Johnson's out of the car, and they're looking at something in the rear of the car, and underneath perhaps they've actually hit some part of the suspension.
Well, that's oil dripping out of the left-hand axle. Maybe a CV joint is broken, or it's actually oil, so it's coming out of the side of the diff. The axle shaft has got a broken CV joint on the outer axle just by the differential. You can see the mechanic give it a shake there. He's got about 8 13mm bolts. He'll go and try and undo those and change the axle. It's all happening, but that is a legacy of the bumps. That is just bash and crash stuff. Now that Nissan, just so viewers know what Freddie Gibson said, oversteer. That means that as the driver is going around the circuit, the back wheels are trying to come around on him like a big speedway skid. And the driver really doesn't have any control on this. So the immediate concern is, hey, I've got a flat tire. They put new tires on, that didn't fix it. So then the problem is then considered to be mechanical. It might be to do with the fantastic connection of power between the front and rear wheels. Remember, this is a 4-wheel drive car with very clever connection between the front and the rear wheels.
This is the underneath of the Paul Radisich, Dick Johnson Ford Sierra, and things are not looking very flash. Obviously, they're very disappointed Dick Johnson out of the car, but they're on the job. They're going to fix it, but you know, they're losing so much time. So at the moment, we've still got the Emanuele Pirro car out in front as the mechanics struggle to replace the damaged CV joint of the Sierra. There's the Nissan still looking at the tail end of that. But of course, when you check the driving forces out in this little beauty, you've got to go front and rear.
So a dramatic start for the Nissan GTR back in the pits. And the great race has turned out to be a bit of a disaster so far for the Nissan team. On the road, Emanuele Pirro out in front from Tony Longhurst and Peter Brock. And look at that gap now between the two leaders. Live from the streets of Wellington, 3 Sport with the Nissan Mobil 500 as we update the leading situations coming up to the first hour of the great race. And the man out in front, Pirro Power, Emanuele Pirro in car number 1. Second, Tony Longhurst in car 25. They were all over each other just a moment ago, so we'll try and work out just why the Longhurst car has actually fallen off the pace there. That was actually in second place. 05. Holden Commodore, Peter Brock in third place. Going through the other classes, leading out the Class C Group A Toyota Corollas, it's the Willie McGregor car, followed by Heffernan and then Oliver and Roderick, who finished 6th last year in a Toyota Corolla.
Well, we have a big mover in the pits at the present time. We know that Tony Longhurst is in, so that's got to be unscheduled.
He was all over Emanuele Pirro before. He got a little wee nudge, remember, from that Toyota Corolla, but now he's got this pit stop. Okay, John Carver with the pit stop pit report, and he's got Alan Jones standing by with the details on that move by Longhurst.
Alan Jones, you were getting all ready to get in the car. What was the story?
Sorry?
You were getting all ready to get in the car. Why?
Sorry?
Alan, you were getting all ready to get into the car there. That was a little ahead of time.
Yeah, well, he might have had a stomach cramp or anything. It's better to be ready rather than not to be ready.
Why, in fact, did he come into the pits?
Well, I think he thought he had some problem with the front left-hand tyre.
And it was easily fixed, no problems at all now.
No, well, it looked all right, so it might have lost the balance weight, perhaps.
But you're running very well. The car is doing surprisingly well. You're up there in second place.
Surprising to who?
Yeah, fair enough. Good comment. But how does it place you now with that quick stop?
Well, obviously it's unscheduled, and whenever that happens, it's always puts you further back than what you anticipate, but still a long way to go yet.
How long before you get in the car?
Oh, about another 46 laps, I think.
All right, Alan, let you relax a little bit more.
Okay, thank you.
John Cardwell talking to Alan Jones, our special guest commentator earlier today, who enjoyed the racing with the Formula Fords. And he'll be pleased to see that Tony Longhurst is back out circulating on the track and doing very respectable times. And the BMW M3 now slipping back to third place behind Peter Brock and the Commodore, which has moved up to second behind Emanuele Pirro.
A little bit of damage there on the back of car 25, left-hand corner of the car. You can see that bit of fiberglass dragging on the ground. Not really a problem, but just wonder how it happened. Did he get a bit hung out somewhere?
Perhaps with that little wee kiss with the Corolla.
Exactly. But Holden fans, what about this? Peter Brock, second place. I know you've been saying it's going to happen. Emanuele Pirro's got the lead, but he cannot discount Peter Brock. Remember, it's Wellington. It can rain. It can do all sorts of things. We can have pace cars. We can have crashes. We can have red flags. I mean, it all can happen. So, hey, a long way to go. The Nissan is back out on the circuit, but theoretically discounted. He's out there, please, viewers. He's only going to just go round and round now. He's dropped off too much time.
In fact, the Nissan GTR is not even in the top 20 at this stage. So that is a real tragedy for gentleman Jim Richards, whose big hope was to win this race this year. He hasn't even had a chance to get behind the wheel, and already the car is off the pace with 3 pit stops. Peter Brock up to second place, doing 130s at the moment. As we go around the field and update some of the rest of the classes for you, because with 42 cars in the field, lots of Kiwis out there giving it their best. And here's the class leader of the Toyota Corollas, and that's car number 70.
Steve Willey in car 70, like Clint. one of the big things about Wellington for these guys, the Toyota guys, is that some people regard them as field fillers, but I tell you, they've got a big responsibility out there. They've got to have a race for themselves. That's what they're here for. But they spend most of their time with their eyes in the mirrors, watching out for these big guys that come into town saying, get out of my way, boy. So it's a heck of a job. Great work by Steve Willie in that little front drive Corolla, and not too far behind Ross Heffernan in the other little Corolla. Great racing.
All right, so that's the story with the Corollas. Remember, they finished in the top 5 before, going back to 86 when Dave Varro finished 4th in a Toyota Corolla, one of the great performances. Also, back in the pits recently, we had Dickie Johnson. We'll update the situation with the Shell 17 Ford Sierra with Dick Johnson and Paul Radisich. And the other interest with the other classes, the first of the Porsches is Owen Evans in the car number 7 Porsche, fastest qualifiers, while in Group N, Trevor Crowe and Possum Bourne in the Subaru Legacy RS are leading the Group N division at this stage as well, from another rallyman, Neil Allport in Gaudi. Updating the situation with the race leader, let's go down to Murray Taylor with a pit stop pit report. He's got Charlie Lamb alongside.
Charlie Lamb, 1 hour into the race. Problems for the Nissan, problems for the Benson and Hedges car. Are you happy with the way it's going for you at this stage?
Yes, it's going very smooth at the moment, and well, but 1 hour is 1/4 of the race. Let's see later.
Is this the sort of pace you wanted to be setting?
Well, we are gradually getting a regular pace, which seems to be 1:32, 1:33, and I think this is a safe pace for us to do the race.
Okay, we've seen the other 2 cars come in and have tyre changes. Is there a problem with the Yokohamas wearing on the circuit? Have you had any feedback from the drivers?
Well, we could not have too much feedback because quite simply the practice time was not big enough. But we know these tires from other circuits, and we are quite confident that we can make it to half of the race.
So you're still on schedule to stop at how many laps will you stop?
At the moment on schedule, we would stop after 2 hours.
After 2 hours with the driver change, fuel?
Driver change, fuel and new tires. I hope that is all.
Okay, so you're reasonably happy, obviously, Charlie.
Reasonably happy.
Murray Taylor with that pit stop pit report, talking to Charlie Lamb. When we come back, we'll update the top 5 and look at the first Kiwis running on the road and this year's Nissan Mobil 500.
The wheel parting company, obviously it couldn't stand the pace of kissing the Armco. Here, now that Nissan is back in pit road. We'll bring the action.
Right, there's drama down on the pits, and it's the Nissan back into the pits.
Let's see if we can have a look at the action on that first turn.
Here's the Armour All protected replay. Scafie racing out and just clipped straight in front of the leading car, Emmanuel Piro. He won't be too pleased about that.
Scafie just did not have his mind on the job. I'm sorry, that's the only answer for that.
That's a sign of the pressure with the Nissan team under at the moment because they're not too sure exactly what's wrong. So here is the action. Mark Scaife, John Carr will take it over.
Right, there's the fuel going in at the back of the car, and the jacks are up. The wheels are coming off again. By crikey, look at that flame coming out of the exhaust. She's running rich down here in the pits. Now they've got the wheels off. There's a mechanic right underneath the car.
Dick Johnson's out of the car, and they're looking at something in the rear of the car, and underneath perhaps they've actually hit some part of the suspension.
Well, that's oil dripping out of the left-hand axle. Maybe a CV joint is a bit broken, or it's actually oil, so it's coming out of the side of the diff.
And here is the first car on the road, Emmanuel Piro, the BMW M3, a familiar sight around the streets of Wellington, isn't it, David Oxton?
It's far too early to start talking about winners. I got to tell you, I mean, this is Wellington. No rules exist.
So it's Armco. That's the key word. Also, as Emmanuel Piro flies past one of the Holden Commodores in the pits, we have Trevor Crowe with the TB3 Subaru, and Possum Bourne, the New Zealand rally driver, all set to make his debut on the streets of Wellington. He says it's a fantastic course. He's had to go around Pukekohe, got it sideways going around Ruapuna, and he wants to sort of stay away from these Armco walls of Wellington. But this must be an unscheduled pit stop. And mind you, they thought they might have to have about 4 because of the Group N class. They can't have too much in the old fuel capacity.
Remember, this racing's all about teamwork. it's mechanics who really give of their time to come here and have the fun. Arguably fun is the strain of burning yourself and missing out on sleep and missing out on eating and everything. But these guys love it. They just live for their motorsport, and the mechanics get a buzz out of changing the wheels as quickly as they can.
So it's Possumbourne behind the wheel. Let's go down to John Cardwell with Trevor Crowe.
Trevor Crowe, fantastic, but a little bit slow on that pit stop.
Sorry, what was that?
You're a little bit slow on the pit stop there, Trevor. What was the problem?
No, we're not slow. We've got just ordinary jacks and ordinary wheel nuts to undo. It's not like a Group A car.
Well, that's the point, isn't it? I mean, this is a big change for you the last time you ran here.
Yeah, it is, although it's the same sort of thing. You're driving out there as hard as you can go and doing the quickest times you can, really.
Was that a scheduled pit stop with Possum getting in?
Yeah, well, we've no idea how far it's going to go on fuel, and it's already starting to surge. So I don't want to be stranded out there. Now we'll be able to measure how much it's taken, and we'll be able to tell Possum how long to stay out there.
I'm just interested, who was the fastest in practice, you or Possum?
I was.
Okay, all right. All the best for the rest of the race, Trevor.
That's my car.
Trevor Crowe talking to John Cardwell. They've actually changed the gearbox as well in the Subaru Legacy RS. So Possumbourne, the street race rookie, is out there going for clean racing lines, learning his track craft, which he's been doing at Ruapuna and Pukekohe as he goes in practice for the racing. So from the rally to the road, Possumbourne doing his thing in the Subaru this year. Actually, they're now leading Group M, or when they were leading Group N. We'll update that situation because they may have just slipped back after that pit stop. So updating the overall situations, car number 7, Owen Evans. And that little wee Porsche leading the Porsche race at this stage.
What a story behind that one too, Clint. That's the one that really, it more than kissed the Armco, it bit a great lump out of it yesterday. It was seriously dead last night. Most people wrote it off as being in the event, but the team just got behind it. They ripped it apart. They've taken mudguards off cars in the street somewhere in the city. They got it all strapped together and glued and beaten. 6:30 this morning, they were putting the towing gauges on. That's the thing that checks the wheels to make sure they're going straight ahead. And a great effort by the guys. The car is wrecked. I tell you, I've looked inside it. It's like a concertina on the inside of the floor, but at least it's in the race. It's leading its class. It's doing a heck of a job.
And Billy Farmer, who was waiting to take over from Owen Evans, he said basically if this was an insurance job, it would have been classified as a write-off.
I've got to tell you, it's still a write-off.
Well, it's right on at the moment, right on the road. Owen Evans, who finished working on the car at 5:30 this morning, so he'll be feeling pretty tired. Might have a few driver changes, and he's just waving another car through. And looking at the other Porsches at this stage.
Well, the other Porsche to keep an eye on when we come to it will be
car number 4, Vic Ferguson and Ray Williams.
Yeah, all the way from England.
Also Nigel Arkle and Dave Slater.
Nigel Arkle and Dave Slater, they've got a good runner, and they may be just challenging for the lead in that class at this time, so we'll keep an eye on that later in the race.
There is Vic Ferguson, the UK man, just in front of Tony Longhurst. So these Porsches making up the field of 42, 3 Porsches in the race this year. But don't forget that out in front it's Emanuele Pirro, second on the road, the Holden Commodore of Peter Brock, and Tony Longhurst running third at the stage, chasing up after that unscheduled pit stop. And here is the big V8. The sound of the kingpins with those big grunters. Peter Brock last year finished second in a Sierra, and he's second on the road at this stage. And the VN Holden Commodore. Another one of the pit reports at the moment. It's John Billington and Bob Jones in the Holden Commodore. We'll find out that situation. At that stage, they were running around about in 9th place, running inside the top 10. And we'll find out the situation with that situation in just a moment with John Cardwell.
Well, here in the pits, we have son of Godzilla, Wayne Munro. Tell us about this Nissan we've got sitting here in the pits. This is a new initiative for next season in New Zealand, I understand.
Actually, it's grandson of Godzilla, I think, Murray. It's the GTIR that Paddy Davidson's running's the son. This one's going to be in the Nissan GT Cup Series, not for next summer, but for the summer after. And what it is a one-make series, 12 rounds we were hoped to run, probably in the North Island initially, but the aim being a real equal formula, real driver's formula, using these little Nissans and running, as I say, 12 rounds, 6 meetings throughout the country, and $60,000 prize money at the end of it. So we think it's a real big thing for New Zealand motorsport.
Now, for $20,000, what do you get? Do you get the car fully kitted out to go racing?
That's exactly right. You get a turnkey racer, 1600cc engine, fuel injected. It's got the race tyres from Dunlop on board already. One set of them anyway. You might need a few more down the line. ROH mags on the wheels, and inside the car, Corbo seats, Momo steering wheels, brake pads already ready to go. So competition parts. The car's ready to jump into and run. What we think is we'll get a lot of young guys in the sport, also people from other forms of motor racing who haven't got the money to spend big bucks. So in other words, no, you don't need the big checkbook to win in this class. What you need to do is be able to drive in a very equal formula, a bit like Formula Ford, but like F3 in Britain, I guess. And as I say, $60,000 prize money. I don't think there is another series in New Zealand with that much money. And at the end of it, what we're proposing to do is take the winner of the GT Cup overseas to a race somewhere and put them in a Nissan, probably a production car, and let them race on that. Because, of course, the guy who does win it, or girl, is going to be a very, very good driver, because they're going to have to compete against 20, maybe 40 very equal cars.
Wayne Munro with a good chat there about a new form of motor racing, which perhaps if you're watching at home, you could get into. A new style of Nissans as we update the race placings at this stage. Pirro on the road, number 1, and car number 1 leading the great race. Peter Brock in the Holden Commodore currently second, and Tony Longhurst really trying to catch up in car 25, currently lying in 3rd place. Moving down through the field and moving up into 4th place at this stage is Kevin Waldock along with Graham Crosby in car 28, the Ford Sierra. Denny Holm in car 54, the car that was almost not going to be here, is here and is right up there in the top 5. And then right behind him, it's Kane Scott in the Ford Sierra Cosworth. He missed one of the early corners in the first lap, but now they're up there. And Dave Barrow at the wheel of the Ford Sierra 44, currently in 7th place. And look at that, the Porsche of Nigel Arkle now moving up into the top 10, and now has taken over the leading Porsche race with in number 9. It's Owen Evans slipping back into 3rd place, currently in 9th place overall, but that's the 1, 2 and 3 of the 3 Porsches in the field at this stage. So a good drive by the Porsches into the top 10 now. That's exactly where they wanted to be. As we go riding with one of the Mobil 1 car cams on the bumper of the Brocky Holden Commodore. So you've seen the face and the style of Peter Brock at home in the office with the Holden Commodore. Let's see if David Oxton can have a chat with Peter Perfect to check out how the big Commodore's going on the circuit.
TD3 to Peter Brock, can you hear me?
just having a bit of a trouble with our link at the moment. Very windy conditions for the helicopters to get those links through from the car cams.
You can see that Brocky would be annoyed there. He put his hand out. He had to go down a gear. With that good audio, we're picking up the fact that that green Toyota held him really up. He probably lost 2.5 seconds that lap. Brocky, Zotto here. Wellington seems to be living up to its name of being unpredictable, Peter. I see already there's several of the top guys in trouble, but you seem to be running A1. Well, at this time, we're probably, as we told you earlier, we are competing with his own connection to his team manager, and that overrides our system. So at any time they want to close off us, that's exactly what happens. We'll catch him later. But in the meantime, let's listen to these lovely sounds from that V8.
So it's Peter Brock and the Holden Commodore, second at the moment, and his race time's right about 1:32, while Emmanuel Pirro's last lap was a 1:34. He's one lap in front just about at this stage on Peter Brock. And Tony Longhurst currently in third place, circulating in 1:31. Let's take a look at the Arborall protected replay, and it's car number 28. It's Kevin Waldock in the Queensland Ford Sierra. He ran into a bit of trouble. Here he is at the end of Cable Street, and that's the second time we've seen a Sierra do that. Earlier today, Kane Scott did exactly the same, just overshooting that corner, because it's now become very quick, hasn't it?
Well, it's so hairy down there, Clip. They literally, the cars are jumping and ducking and diving. The wheels are off the ground as much as they're on it.
And here's Vic Ferguson losing it, going straight into the Armco at the end of the hairpin. And that's the reason why at the moment they're the third Porsche of the three Porsches in the field. He lost a bit of time there. So Waldock is back on the track again. Of course, the major story so far has been the drama of the Nissan Mobil 500, and it's the Nissan GTR. We've got Freddie Gibson talking to John Cardwell and Murray Taylor.
Fred Gibson, 1.5 hours into the race. You've now sorted out what the problem is. Can you tell us about it?
Yes, Murray, we've broken front diff. Cable Street's taken this toll on the car, and the bumps have broke the front differential, probably stripped the crown wheel. So, like, as you see on the TV, it's jumping all over the track down there, and it's stripped all the teeth off. See, the car weighed, we did an exercise this morning, the car weighed 1,576 kilo with Mark in the car at the start of the race. So it's a big, heavy car, and sort of done, so it's only rear-wheel drive at present.
Okay, now does that put extra strain on the rear diff?
Yeah, it has on the rear diff and the rear half shafts, and also the rear tyres. Mark's coming in shortly for rear tyres, which is about half the distance we should be doing.
Okay, well, we've got more drama because Peter Brock's just come into the pits.
Thanks, Murray.
Well, Peter Brock is getting out of the car. Now Larry Perkins is getting in the car. They're helping each other to strap in. Perkins going in, getting the straps on. The tyres are on. Mechanics getting their hands up. The nuts are being tightened on the back wheels. That's the last part of the formula be done. And we'll talk to Peter. There goes Larry Perkins. He's flying out of the pits. Meanwhile, Peter Brock is with his wife Bev and getting a little drink here. We'll just grab him. Peter.
How are you?
Peter, your smiles, mate. What's it like out there?
Well, the traffic's very difficult, of course. The car's running beautifully. It's really up to the driver just to concentrate, get to the traffic, I guess. It's difficult.
I saw you pointing at one of the flag marshals at one stage when you were behind a green car.
Yeah, I just wanted to raise the flag because I reckon the bloke in the green car hadn't seen me. And I was just trying to get the flag in and sort of give it a bit of a wave, you know.
Now tell me, you're very well positioned in this race with the Nissan having all its troubles. What do you reckon about a finish now?
Well, one of the great things about motor racing is its unpredictability, and all you can do is give it your best shot, which we are absolutely doing as we speak, and hope it hangs in there all day.
Mate, I've just got one last question. Cable Street, we're watching the car actually lift off the ground in Cable Street. Is it going to hurt the car or is it going to hurt you?
Yeah, I think it hurts the car if you keep your foot on it. if it keeps accelerating, if the GIF is getting that sort of feedback from the ground as it lands, it takes off. But, you know, all he can do is try and pick the right-hand side of the road and not just not fire into it. But after all these holes, it's a pretty strong, reliable cars. We presume it'll take it.
All right, Peter, all the very best and good luck out there.
John Cardwell talking to Peter Brock with our pit report there. The latest update of the man in the Mobil 05 Holden Commodore, who's second. And there's more drama in the pits because we've just seen that the Nissan GTR is back into the pits. Let's go down to Murray Taylor. What's happening, mate?
Well, Clint, I've just spoken with Fred Gibson. Apparently they've come in to change the tyres because they're only running the rear diff. It's running through the rear tyres, so they've had to come in to change tyres because the pressure is now really on this car. It's running as a rear-wheel drive car, and they've chewed out the tyres, so it's a fairly quick stop. The problem at the moment seems to be the belts. They're ready to go. They're just waiting for the driver change. The driver change hasn't gone well. The car's ready. Fred Gibson just waiting patiently at the start. Yeah, they're away now. They're just rolling.
It has been an upside-down race so far this year for the Nissan GTR2 as Jimmy Richards finally gets out onto the Wellington waterfront circuit. And a bad day for Gentleman Jim, because you must be wondering what's going through his mind at the moment. The car promised so much, and all those big bumps have taken its toll on the heavy machine, as you heard Fred Gibson explain a while ago. And they're running at the moment the Nissan GTR in 18th place, but they're round about 7 laps off the race leader, who at this stage is this car, number 1, Emanuele Pirro. Will the defending champions make it 4 in a row? There's still a long way to go, so stay with us. Sport, this is Steve Osborne. Give us a wave, Big Steve, with the action on pole cam. It's got 2 little wee microphones right on the end there, so you can also pick up the sound as 3 Sport gets right in there where motor racing happens in the pits. Some fantastic shots, as you can see, this high-tech camera technology taking you right inside where the action happens. And it's also very difficult with the cars too, because they scream into the pits, and with Steve looking down the barrel of that lens, he's got to be very sure exactly where he is in the pit lane, because it can be very dangerous down there sometimes. This is earlier today during the setting up of the Formula Ford races. No doubt you must wonder what some of the drivers think of that black thing being poked into their face as well. So Oars, the man behind pole cam, here on 3 Sport as part of your coverage. 35 cameras all over the Wellington waterfront. It's the inside action of the Nissan Mobil 500. Now this is the action with the 3 Sport Castrol BMW M3, the leading car in the race. Out in front, Emanuele Pirro, and the BMW battle, which has been one of the big talking points this week, is now unfolding with their reliability. And Tony Longhurst second on the road and trying to catch up that distance back between the 2 cars.
The figures on the right-hand side of your Unisys reports indicates the gap to the leader. So, in fact, Longhurst is 1 minute and 3 seconds behind Emanuele Pirro, and so on. Just keep an eye on those right-hand figures.
At one stage, they did actually catch up, but then Longhurst had that little wee ding and had to come into the pits, didn't he? So it's Kevin Waldock who had that little wee off a while ago, and he's 3 minutes 46 behind the leader. Jetty Holm in car 54, the BMW M3. 5th on the road at this stage. Then it's Kane Scott in the Ford Sierra, and his driver change will hand over to Brett Riley, who was driving a BMW M3 last year, one of the cars that Holm and Francevic are in. In the Group N, the NZ class, it's the Sachs Coombs BMW M3 currently leading now, taken over from Trevor Crowe and Possum Bourne, with Possum Bourne at the wheel, and Davidson and Pennington with the Nissan GTIR, the son of Godzilla, currently 3rd in Group N. Updating the other classes and also staying with Group N, it's 4th at this stage. It's the Pateman Field Ford Laser. Then it's the Neil Allport Gaudi Ford Sierra RS Cosworth. And then it's Wood and Orton and the Nissan Polestar GTI in 6th place. Updating the action from the pits. And it's all happening now because it's Graham Crosby about to take over car 28.
can't
from Kevin Walcott. Okay, Cards, what's happening, mate?
Kevin Waldock getting out of the car and helping Graham Crosby get himself strapped up. There's the communications gear going in the last part of the harness as the wheels go on. And there's a drink bottle being changed over. Hello Cross has a different flavour he prefers to that which Kevin Waldock is used to. Cross spitting on his hands. There's something I've never seen before. Getting on the wheel. Doors closed. No, not quite. Kevin Waldock had one last thing to do. Let's get in there now and let's have a word with Kevin Waldock here down in the pit row. Kevin, fantastic effort at the moment, mate. You're right up there.
Oh, thanks very much. That's hard work out there. I tell you what, we've got to commend all the slower drivers. They're doing a fabulous job. There's one or two that, you know, through conditions can't see the car approaching or the flag marshal, but they're doing a great job, and I think it's a fabulous race.
I'm just a little bit concerned about your health, of course. How is it out there now?
I'll tell you what, we'll run them around the race after the race is over. We've got to win it first.
Hey, you're absolutely saturated. Is it hot work?
Something like it hot. You know what Queensland's like. Good one, what do they say? Perfect one day, better than next.
All right, Kevin Waldock, well done. And I look forward to seeing you later in the race.
Thanks.
And Graham Crosby now at the wheel of the Playscape Ford Sierra, which was run by Ross Stone, who prepares the car, but the word is that there's a bit of a battle for the services of Ross Stone for next year. And Dickie Johnson may be trying to get him to take over, but no doubt Kevin Waldock will be keeping a close eye on that situation. A lot of the Kiwis running some of the top cars in Australia, for example, Neil Lowe, an ex-New Zealander, who's preparing the Ford Falcon for the Dick Johnson team for next year.
Just picking up on that point of John Carville's, the reason why Cross spits on his gloves. He's got leather gloves and he's got a shiny leather steering wheel. They just will not grip the wheel until there's some moisture in them. So you just give them a bit of a lick to make sure you've got some traction on the wheel.
So it's Graham Crosby behind the wheel of the Ford Sierra number 28, fifth at this stage, but round about 4 laps behind the leading car, Emanuele Pirro, as we approach almost coming up to the 2-hour mark, around about 20 minutes to go. 2 hours out of 4 hours, or the 500 kilometres, whatever comes up first. Race due to finish around about 5:30 today.
Cros will do a great job in this car. In '86, he finished in 6th place in a BMW 635 with the Wellingtonian driver Lou McKinnon. Of course, his motorcycle background is pretty extensive, with 2 World Formula 1 championships behind his belt. And then he moved on to Group A touring cars in Australia with the Holden Commodores, and really made a name for himself before coming back to New Zealand to concentrate on his business. So it's really only endurance drives that keeps the popular Aucklander behind the wheel of these Sierras at the moment.
Now we're back with the race leader, Emanuele Pirro, just threading the eye of the needle as he moves up past the slower traffic. It's actually Peter Brock. Peter Brock with Larry Perkins at the wheel after that driver change. And we'll see what lap times Larry Perkins can circulate the Holden Commodore in.
Larry was a bit off the pace yesterday. He couldn't figure out why. I mean, he can run quick as Brock anywhere. Adelaide, he blew him off in the touring car race over there just 2 weeks ago. He just hadn't got the sequence of events. He's such a sympathetic driver to his machinery. He just doesn't like crashing and banging it over the bumps. He wants to finish the event. He's sitting good in a good place. They're doing the best they can with this car. I think it's a top performance for the Holden V8.
And his background as an engineer, one of the better engine builders of the Commodores in Oz.
He's actually losing ground to Longhurst at the moment. He's probably dropped about 3 or 4 seconds in the last 8 laps, 7 or 8 laps. But a very consistent man, as you say, super easy on machinery. This is Larry Perkins, the former Grand Prix driver.
It's a fantastic shot, isn't it? It just shows you how tough it is and how hard they have to work. The concentration as well.
I wouldn't mind if it stayed like this all race. We could just listen to that engine.
That's what some of the fans have come to see too, the big V8. And Peter's had such an amazing response back in Australia too, since he made the switch back from the Sierras and the BMWs back to the Holden.
I remember seeing a banner up on top of Bathurst a couple of years ago, and it said from one of the Holden fans that if God ever drove Bathurst, he'd co-drive with Peter Brock.
So it's Larry Perkins at the wheel now, currently lying in 3rd place, a lap down on the leading car, who's actually closing in on the Holden Commodore as well. So could that be a situation where Emanuele Pirro tries to lap the Holden Commodore? As you can see, there he is, Emanuele Pirro screaming down the back straight. That little beaver is just so quick.
You see that there's something to pick up on here, Clint. Emanuele is not backing off. The moment you get used to saying, oh, I'll let that guy through the corner there, or I'll let him do that, you start to lose a bunch of seconds a lap. This sort of car needs driving with such gusto. You've got to keep up momentum. So you've got to go from corner to corner, carrying the most possible speed. So you don't always wait for the guy to make room or just be in the right place. You have to make him make room and be aggressive. That's the only way you can get these little cars to go.
And Oxo, there's been a lot of talk about Peter Brock having the nickname Peter Perfect. What about the racing lines of Emanuele Pirro? Is he the cleanest driver in the field?
I guess it's a bit of a mixture of metaphors here. Pirro, if we stay on him with these little cars, is using a common sense action. He's flashing the lights now. He's trying to draw attention. You see, he's making the guys aware of his presence. But he has still got to show initiative and force his way through. But if you look at the car, the way that the wheels are so fitting closer to those mudguards, he can't really take a chance and touch a guard onto a tyre because he'll puncture a good rubber. And, you know, all these things have to be measured. So 3 races so far, he's done it 100% right. We've got to say he's pretty close to perfect.
What about that experience in Formula 1 racing?
Well, he's top at the moment, or should we say he's in the peak of his career in driving skills. He's come fresh from victory at Macau. He's got a lot going for him in touring cars. He looks set for, or looks destined for, a career in touring cars. It looks like his Formula 1 days may be through. So, very professional man.
Emanuele Pirro with the 3-Sport Castrol BMW M3, the Snitcher team. Superb setup. And it's way out in front at this stage of the Nissan Mobil 500. When we count back, the action continues. Stay with us.
Going for you today?
Too badly, in actual fact. I think the weather's been against us slightly today. There's been more wind and rain, and people have tended to perhaps buy jackets and the more expensive articles than T-shirts. Whereas last year we sold out virtually of all the T-shirts that we had. But otherwise it's been very, very well presented, and I think there's been a good crowd coverage, and I'm very pleased with the results so far.
So that's the situation here at the Wellington waterfront as we take out the action here. And this is an incident which involved Emanuele Pirro going through the Nissan Mobil gates. And he just clipped the car in front of him, who was possum born in the Subaru, just trying to get out of the way. So Emanuele Pirro may have just lost a little bit of time there. And here's Paul Ranisic and the Dick Johnson Sierra on the road, leading the race at the moment. It's Pirro first, Longhurst second, Brock third. So it's the Holden Commodore still out there trying to chase the 2 BMWs. Currently 4th, Denny Holm in the BMW moving up the field. Kevin Waldock now with Graham Crosby at the wheel of the car 28, the Playscape Sierra, moving up to 5th place. And it's Kane Scott, Brett Riley, car number 3, currently in 6th place at this stage overall. That's the top 6 in the Nissan Mobil 500. One of the other classes, of course, this year and every year, David Oxton is the battle for the Group A Class C Toyota Corollas. How's that going at this stage?
Well, Ross Heffernan's run to the front in this class. He's following up 2 successful years where he's won the category, and he's back in the front where he belongs. Car 70, Steve Willey, and car 55, Tony Oliver, bring up the next places, so they're looking good.
I was talking to Dave Black, who's managing the Oliver Roderick team earlier this week. Some rally drivers really enjoy the chance to get out on the road. Kennedy and Stoneman in car 64, currently 4th. Meekings and Aaron Slight up there in 5th place at this stage. Car 26, the two-wheel racer, the superbike rider. And then it's Ma and Pardon. And you have to pattern the, I should say. And of course, Chris Marr, the man that had that little wee nudge with Tony Longhurst. And this is the class leader.
Ross Heffernan from Auckland, another of the single-seater turned saloon car racers, spent a couple of seasons in the former Atlantic car, a Relp car, formerly operated by Ken Smith, enjoying himself immensely down here. Always does a tidy show, and he did make the point this week. He now drives his car better after he's had his single-seater experience. He feels more confident generally in racing.
Just updating the placings, that car has just dropped back to second place in that class. So the racing changes, of course, right throughout the day as the cars pit. There'll be problems with the updating those situations. Meanwhile, back on the track, here's the Nissan GTR with the twin turbos and another Toyota Corolla, is it?
Yep. Another flame up. That's obviously what happens when they empty their oil on the exhaust pipe.
Well, this is bad luck because this is the Roderick Oliver Toyota Corolla 55 that was running in the top 6 just a few moments ago. And it looks like it's the end of the race for the guys who finished 6th last year in a Toyota Corolla.
Let's see where it is in relation to the circuit safety. The marshals will be keeping an eye on it and making sure that there isn't a hazard to a driver coming off the turn, making sure that the circuit looks semi-vulnerable there, guys. I don't know, it's what's that, pushed back out of sight? Well, maybe not. Maybe that's that won't worry Eric Mallard too much, I don't believe. And the yellow flags is just to give the marshals some feeling that they're not going to be in trouble by someone coming and trying to bite their legs off.
Okay, Brian Lawrence, how's the big race shaping up at this stage? And bad news for Dave Barrow.
Well, it certainly is. They've had some pretty bad luck, actually. They didn't have a good run at Bathurst in early October, and they were running so consistently up in 11th position, running nice and steadily on pace in the Ford Sierra Cosworth. This is one of the ex-Benson and Hedges cars of Tony Longhurst from last year. And
looks like it's going to be a driver change with Brian Bolwell jumping into the seat.
Out with the old 100-mile-an-hour tape. It's amazing what they can repair with this stuff. Absolutely incredible. Something on the ignition box. And as we look out from our commentary position, it looks like we're going to be in for some rain. So that's probably going to change the race pattern quite a bit. Still Pirro out in front from Longhurst, while the Barrow Bolwell car still sits in the pits, waiting for an exit. Everything's all sweet, and away they go. There's our race leader, Emanuele Pirro. The race only about 5 or 6 minutes away from the halfway stage.
Let's just go down to the pits and see if we can get a word from John Campbell. John, you're telling us that the rain is just starting to hit the circuit again. Is that the fact? What's the story?
Well, I tell you what, Murray Taylor and I are looking up to the north, and Murray, it looks awful, doesn't it?
It does. It certainly looks like there's rain on the way. It's really black out there to the north. And in fact, it could well coincide with the Schnitzer BMW pit stop. That could be a big advantage for them if they happen to come in just as the rain comes, because they can obviously go straight on to wets.
Is this how Charlie wrote the script, Murray?
Yeah, you'd think so, wouldn't you?
I didn't think they needed an advantage, Murray. They've already got about a minute in the lead and everything going their way. But isn't that just the way Wellington is? It's full of trump cards.
Well, there you go. Yeah, I guarantee you that it's going to pelt down here within the next 5 minutes. I can see Mount Cow, the big television repeater station, is out of view, and the mountains also. So I tell you what, stand by, because they're all going to start hitting the pits to change onto wet tyres.
Car number 54, Denny Hole with the BMW M3, the first man and the first Kiwi home this year for the Bathurst Brigade. He finished in 4th place in a BMW M3, one of the Longhurst Beamers. He's having a pretty good day behind the wheel at this stage, and ironically, he's running in 4th place, BL.
He's doing a great job. The Fastway Courier's Italian ceramics car. This car has been in the middle of a lot of controversy, which I'm sure that they don't really want to talk about any longer. But the Bear came down here with Robbie Francovic. They had some gearbox problem earlier on. They changed it, not in the race today, but during the qualifying side of it. And with a nice fresh engine that arrived, you can always rely on Denny to bring something home. He's somebody who doesn't drive the wheels off it. His career goes back a hell of a lot longer than what many care to remember him. David Oxton and I were going through the driver profile sheets the other night, just looking at who's done what. And we looked at screeds and screeds of what people have done in car club events and hill climbs and all sorts of other things. And Denny Holm, his one was pretty self-explanatory. It had Formula One, Indy, Le Mans, and World Championship Group C type sports car events. The Can-Am series, of course, which him and the late Bruce McLaren were so successful. It's about 6 words, and it really tells you, been there, done that, bought the T-shirt, read the book.
Well, his teammate this year is the man who was a 3-sport commentator last year, standing in the rain, is Robbie Francevic.
Talking, it's starting to rain, Robbie. Well, poor old you. Denny's done it in the dry. Now you're going to be faced with a wet.
Unbelievable. I knew it was my unlucky weekend, but who knows? It's the same for everybody.
Mate, you've got a real good position. Denny's done a great job for you.
Yes, that's what I knew he would do, and now I've got to complete it.
What is it going to be like for you out there in the rain? You're going to have to take time to settle in, or you're just going to go flat out into it?
Well, I've got to go flat out, but I've done a lousy job so far this weekend, so we'll have to see.
All right, Robbie, keep dry, will you, for goodness sakes, and good luck.
Thank you.
Robbie Francevic down in the pits, and I tell you what, Clint, all the slick tyres have gone, and as we look up the pit row behind us now, we can see that the wet tyres are coming out. The wet tyres are coming out of the pits. Peter Brock's team are bringing out the wet tyres. Also, the Schnitzer BMW team bringing out the wet tyres. And car 25, the B&H team, they're about ready to come in. Frank Gardner just told us to get out of the way because the number 25 car of Tony Longhurst is due in the pits any moment.
All right, John Carmel keeping up to date with that pit stop, pit report as the rain sweeps across the circuit. And BL, I thought you almost going to give Denny Holm the kiss of the commentator's kiss of death then, because you said he's doing a great job, and then the bear just barely missed the Armco down there at the hairpit.
It's a calculated risk, Denny would say. It's going to be very interesting. I think we're going to see a few changes now. It sort of brings out the who's who of the drivers. It's a whole new different ball game. The cars will be being altered by the brake balances and the bar adjustments that they have inside some of the more sophisticated cars. It brings out who's good in the wet. Cross is particularly good in the wet. I think you'll see even a better performance from Pirro and Winkelhock, who are superb anyway. Watch Tony Longhurst. There's Godzilla in behind it. This will probably give this car a little bit of a better run than what it's having at the moment. They're sitting in 9th position at this point, just with the diff on it. Longhurst is about 1 minute and 4 seconds behind in 2nd position. But of course, as he said when we spoke to him earlier on today, he said this is a race that can be won or lost in the pits.
And how's that, Longhurst waving Richards through?
Yeah, well, he knows it's not really a contest. Richards is, you know, several laps behind now. Longhurst is a contender for the lead. He's only 2 minutes, 1 minute 30 behind at this point, and that's nothing. As soon as the rain covers the track, it all goes to a new set of rules.
We know Tony Longhurst has had a great drive here in the rain many years ago with Trevor Crowe. Remember that race in the BMW? So we know he's great in the wet. What about Alan Jones, AJ?
Well, Alan's probably a little bit off the pace. When I say that, I don't say that in a disrespectful manner. Tony is so fit, he puts everything into it the whole time. Alan just a little bit back off that pace, but he can do it. It's just he probably can't keep doing it.
So going across the start-finish line, the Nissan GTR with Jimmy Richards at the wheel trying to make up some stages. And also, here's the Armour All protected replay with John Billington at the wheel, and once again at the end of Cable Street. This is the 3rd car this time which has overshot the corner. Too fast.
That's that braking problem while the cars are in midair. Naturally, the cars won't stop if the wheels are in midair. They can't grip onto the ground, and that usually just robs them of that stopping distance.
So it's the Billington Bob Jones Holden Commodore. Had the little wee ding with the Toyota Corolla and the Porsche yesterday in practice. Trying to keep out of the way with Kane Scott, Brett Riley, Ford Sierra.
Brian, you picked up on something. These conditions bring out the real sharp operators, the guys who can get the most out of slick tyres on a sort of wet, dry surface. Most people see the rain, they immediately put their brain in reverse and put the parachute out the back, you know, give away 10 seconds a lap. The good guys, now there's, I think it's either Kane Scott or Brett Riley in the Peanut Slab car. They're the ones that will capitalize as much as possible on the damp track with slicks. Slick tyres being the ones without the tread.
Because what they've also got to decide is how long the rain's going to be here for, how long it takes them to change from wets to dry or dries to wets, in the event of perhaps it drying up very quickly and them having to come back in again. So it's a long way down the pit road. They lose a lot of time actually getting off the circuit proper, down to their pits, and then the drag back on the outside, out onto the circuit once again. The wipers are on, but it's still, the surface is not anywhere near damp enough. There's the difference between the two tyres. On the left of your screen, you've got your slick tyre with the little holes in it. That's not a problem. That's actually to gauge how much is left in it. On your right-hand side, you've got a specially hand-cut, or in some cases, a moulded wet weather tyre there. You see the profile there, very, very low. This is why the cars are bouncing around so much. There's no give in the sidewall of the tyres.
Looks like they're just about getting set for a pit stop.
Brian, this is a real problem time for Charlie Lamb. You see the lap board there is indicating the times. He's back on race pace for slick tyres. So that means when the scheduled tyre stop, wheel stop, fuel stop is in a few laps' time, he's got a real decision on which tyres to go on to. Does he go with the reins? The reins back again? He's really, it evens and odds on the whole thing. A decision made badly now could make all the advantage he has evaporate just on a... Well, he has to make some sort of a decision, and looking at the sky...
He's got a minute up his sleeve, but as you say, if he makes the wrong decision, that minute will be whistled out from under his nose so fast it won't be funny.
Okay, the car is now coming around the end of Cable Street. John Carble standing by in the pits with Joachim Winkelhock.
Joachim, wet tyres or dry tyres?
I think we put on dry tyres.
What about it? It's spitting now, it's starting to rain. Do you know what you can do? What would you do?
Okay, for now, for sure, dry tires, and then, okay, we must wait. If the weather will be there and not more rain, I think it's enough, or good enough for dry tires.
Okay, does this make the circuit harder to drive on when you don't know?
Not harder. If it's rain, it's more safety for the car. I hope so. Okay, it's not so easy to finish the race. Because Emmanuel is so far in front now. For me, it's not so easy.
Not so easy for you? What, the pressure is on you, you think?
Yeah, sure. Okay, it's not so much pressure, but I have to bring the car to finish the race. This is my problem.
All right, Joachim, we'll let you concentrate on that, and good luck out there.
Thank you.
Well, Emmanuel Pera is actually still out there, still circulating, so we'll keep an eye on the pit situation to see when they're going to make that change. Perhaps Charlie's just waiting to see if the rain's going to clear.
Well, the rules are, I mean, what should we say, the moral rules of a racer is you don't use rain tyres until the circuit is soaking. It's not exactly whether the track is wet, because sometimes the slick tyres will still run good. They're so good today. The good Yokohamas, the good Bridgestones will still grip hard in a wet track. It's when it's got to be drained, and that's why they use the treaded wet tyres to break through the flooded track.
But it looks like at this stage the rain is sweeping towards Eastbourne and towards the entrance to the Wellington harbour, and may have just missed the actual waterfront, and looks like that rain shower may be clearing at this stage, so it looks like it may be a bit of a easier decision for Charlie Lamb and the rest of the team managers as well, because remember, it's not just one car that has to make the choice, it's the whole field of 42 for this year's Nissan Mobil 500. Welcome back to 3 Sport as we update the situation with the great race. Emmanuel Pero out front, about to come in for a pit stop with Joachim Winkelhock. Longhurst and Jones currently in second place with Alan Jones at the wheel now, down by 1 minute behind Brock and Perkins. Larry Perkins at the wheel currently in fourth. Then we have Denny Holm in fourth, I should say, with Perkins in third. Graham Crosby at the wheel of car number 28 in fifth place. It's Brett Riley and Kane Scott in sixth in car 3. And moving up the field after the disastrous start will be the Nissan GTR. Look at that. Jimmy Richards turning in laps of 131, 132 up to 8th place. And the Porsche in the top 10. Nigel Arkle, Dave Slater in 7th place at the moment in car 15. And then it's the Jones, Billings and Holden Commodore. But the Nissan at this stage is around about 6 laps behind the race leader. But at least he's got back into the race. And they're back out there in the top 10. Evans and Bill Farmer. That Porsche at this stage is in the 10th place. Look at those little wee Corollas, always up there.
I got to tell you, Clint, the little Toyota, Steve Willie, is just outside the top 10 and the race is 2 hours to go. I mean, it does hold good for them if they can keep the thing running for another top 10 place, one of those little supercars.
At car 56, the Sachs Coombs BMW M3, the leading class in Group N at this stage. There's the next of the Toyota Corollas, Heffernan and Butler on that Toyota Corolla, car 51. Then second in Group N is Possum Bourne on the road in the Subaru Legacy RS, while Barrow and Bowell have actually slipped back out of the top 10 down to 15 at this stage.
Here's the big pit stop, the one that matters. Car number 1, Manuel Pirro in pit road.
Aiming for 25 seconds. Let's see just how quick they are with Murray Taylor.
And the car has just come to a stop. The Winkelhock is in the seat already. Pirro helping him get into the car. The air guns are going, the wheels are going on. 100 litres of fuel, gravity fed into the back of the tank. A lot of activity, but it seems all well controlled and organised. A few batters and bangs on the car. It's obviously been in the wars, but Winkelhock's away. That was a good clean stop as he slides out and he is on slicks.
27.8 for the 3-Sport Castrol BMW M3. Joachim Winkelhock. Can he take the number 1 to victory?
Well, Brocky used to make a statement, you don't win races sitting in the pits. It seemed to me there, Joachim Winkelhock didn't want to spend too long sitting there. Let's see if we can get a look with Manuel Pirro after his battlers 2 hours round Wellington street race.
Hot, sweaty conditions for the man with the cool suit. He's had a cool day and a cool drive.
Well, this is it. He's given his all. He's got to replace something like about 10, 12 pounds of weight can be shed in a race like this, and he's got to replace it very quickly before he goes, you know, lightheaded.
Just try and pick up Murray Taylor.
We want to make it a little bit conservative.
At this stage, the media
Brian
and the
Kelly
press swarming all over him like flies there. That's Brian Kelly from Radio New Zealand Sport getting on the act. Of course.
Sky is already quite slippery.
So he looks like a politician.
Yes, because if you put the reins, it has to rain very hard, and if it slows down the rain, then you have to go back again to change the tires. So normally, in this situation, you try to keep these leaks as long as possible.
Any problems at all with the car?
Now, just a small accident with slow cars, but very small.
What sort of accidents? Just little nudges getting in the way?
Sometimes you think they've seen you and then they haven't, so you dive inside and they shut the door.
Is the traffic a bit of a hassle out there?
Well, it is, but I mean, these people, they do their own race. And I think they try to do their best, apart from 1 or 2 cars which have been quite bad. I can say the average of the people are very, very good. But when you drive a slow car, you enter a race like this, which is very important for you. I mean, you can't drive all the race on the outside to leave the professional drivers.
So the way it's going, you're on target for your 4th win?
Please wait.
Manuel, you've won. I guess we could say that you have personally won 3 races. You've already won half a race here. It's over to Joachim now.
Yes, now we have quite a good lead, and the car works quite good. There are 2 or 3 things which worries me a little bit, but it's quite good. So basically, he has to try to keep up the traffic and keep a slow pace like I've done in the first stint.
When Mark Scaife came out of the pits, it must have given you quite a scare.
Why?
When Mark came out in the Nissan, you had a nudge.
Yes, I think he didn't see me because we hit. And, well, probably he hasn't seen me because there was no reason to shut the door.
So now it's the waiting game for you, standing nervously in the pits, watching as Winkelhock finishes the race.
I'm used to it.
Okay, well, thank you, Emanuele.
Talk to you later.
Murray Taylor with the number 1 driver at this stage, Emanuele Pirro, with our pit stop pit report. Just updating the situation for you with the Nissan GTR as Emanuele Pirro looks on. Joachim Winkelhock at the wheel of the BMW. At this stage, Richards is 6 laps down and running in 7th place. Jim Richards behind the wheel of the supercar. They've had a terrible day so far. And now it's a real dogfight to see if Richards can actually catch up through the field. And the only thing that would basically mean that the BMW would stop them from taking would be mechanical trouble.
Vinny, you've just joined us. The reason why Godzilla is not really in the hunt It's certainly got the speed, but at the moment it appears that, from what Fred Gibson, team manager, has said, the front differential is broken. It is only driving through the rear wheels, and it makes it a pretty amazing effort the way the car is going, considering it's only driving through 2 of its normal 4-wheel drive. This makes it harder on tyres. In fact, Winkelhock has now got up to speed through coming in, obviously, full load of gas, new tyres. He's rejoined, and he seemed to give in very easily to Jim Richards. Now the tyres have come in. Now he's up to speed. Now he's confident. He's going to make a race of it. Again, his mental attitude and driving abilities are tuned to going flat out.
And of course, even though they had a very quick pit stop with 27 seconds with that driver change, it now means that it's car 25, the Tony Longhurst, Alan Jones BMW M3, which has now just taken over the lead. They're both on the same lane. Now there's been a big spill down here on the front straight, and it's the Tony Longhurst, Alan Jones car which has been smashed. This is going to be a serious incident.
Well, this race will be stopped. I will swear to you, they will not leave this. The decisions made right now are crucial to any further problem.
It's Alan Jones in the car, sitting, waiting.
That's John Sachs, Graham Coombs' car. Exactly same position as where Andy Rouse parked a Ford Sierra many years ago, but unfortunately, well, we'll update with as much information as we can get. Obviously, the main concern at this moment is the driver safety, the driver condition.
Let's go down to John Carver. What's the latest update, Cards?
Okay, 2 cars down here. We've got car 56, John Sachs, and John getting out of the car very, very gingerly, and he's not looking too well at all. The other car, which is causing concern, is Tony Longhurst in the BMW number 25, and there's bits of it spread all the way up the track. This is disastrous. I can see blood coming out of the corner of Tony's eye, and with him, I tell you what, this is real sportsmanship. Dick Johnson was the first person across the wall. Dick Johnson, one of his main opposition drivers, was the first man across the wall to attend to Tony, to help him get the helmet off. He's talking, he seems to be coherent. I am not going to, for the sake of decency, to go and put my microphone up to Tony Longhurst, but I tell you what, if I get a chance, I'm going to talk to Dick Johnson about it, because he was the first on the scene. Now, Tony is talking to him, he is moving around, he has come to, but I'll tell you what, he gave us a heck of a fright, because he was sitting there for a long, long time and not looking too well at all. Okay, I'm going to take a punt. I'm going to try and get across the track. By crikey, I'm going to get into trouble for this, but I'm going on the track. And we're going to try and talk to Dick Johnson. They're trying to get him out of the car now. He's having to go out the other side. Dick Johnson. Dick, you were first on the scene. I don't want to talk to Tony. How is he, mate?
I think he's fairly shocked, but you know, he hit his head on the wall. If you have a look at his helmet, he's hit the wall pretty hard and he hit his head, but I think he's all right. He said he's okay, but I think he just needs to sit down and just have a good look at him and make sure he's okay.
Have you ever seen one like this? I noticed you were the first across the wall, mate. It must have concerned you.
Well, you know, it's just, you never know what's going to happen, whether they're going to catch fire or what.
Okay, we'll have a quick... No, Tony's going away. We're not going to even bother, but I'll tell you what, we'll have a quick word to John Sachs, the other driver who was involved in the crash. Johnny, you're not looking too well on it, mate. What's your version of what happened?
Tony came through, just gave me a clip just on there, right through the chicane. Not the place to try and overtake. He had to go. Left me no room at all. Flipped the front of the car. He went into the wall here and couldn't avoid him. We had to spin into the wall here.
Mate, how are you?
Oh, foot's not too healthy. In fact, both feet are not too healthy. But no, other than that, fine. No problem.
When you say your feet are not too healthy, can you move them?
Taking a fair smack through the floorboards.
All right, okay. We'll let you get some medico to you. People are looking at him. The medicos are in here. I'll tell you what, he doesn't want to get down. And the debris is now being swept away. I hope you can see this in your pictures. With number 25, the B&H, the ex-Schnitzer car, David Oxton, you can talk about this. It is totaled in the middle of the track.
Let's take a look, first of all, at the Arbor All Protect and replay to see exactly what happened with that incident on the main straight as we're crossing to Longhurst. Now they're coming down through the field. You can see Longhurst flashing the lights at John Sachs as they come through to the entrance onto the main straight. Very tight there, just clips the wall, bounces off the other wall, then careers across the straight into the other wall in Wellington. So he took out 3 walls and the John Sachs car. A dramatic smash there with Tony Longhurst at the wheel of the car that had just taken the lead in the race. And he just clipped one of the Armcos.
great work, TV3. That action just picked up everything. You cannot blame the slower car in this situation. Tony Longhurst made a calculated judgment. It was only about 3 or 4 centimetres out, but it was enough to crease the inside wall, put the car offline, launch it at the inside wheel. There it is on camera, and there's that wall out of control, 120, 150 Ks.
Oh, and
right
you can see there the reaction where Tony Longhurst's head hit the window and bounced back, the whiplash effect that Dick Johnson was talking about.
Well, the good thing is we know that he's up and about, he's walking around. That's the good thing about it. The car is obviously wheelless. It's going to take a fair bit of moving out of the way. That was last year's winning car. Look at the action in the foreground here. That's
all right, let's go down to John Carver with Tony Longhurst.
Tony, I'm sorry about this, mate. I don't like to talk to you in these sort of circumstances. How are you, first of all?
I'm all right. I've just hurt my neck and got a couple of cuts or something like that.
Mate, tell us, what do you remember of the incident?
I remember the whole lot. You know, Sachs or the red BMW moved over. I thought I was going through. Thought I got through cleanly, and obviously he's misjudged and touched my back wheel, which has put me right across into the wall and stuck their whole race.
Mate, what goes through your mind while this thing is happening, while the big loser's on?
Well, you know, you're probably doing close to 200 kilometres an hour, just hoping that you're not going to get hurt. That's the worst accident I've had.
Mate, there it is on the cam. Let's have a look at it on the TV set we've got in front of us. Just, if you can, just tell us what was happening.
Yeah, well, it's, you know, we're ridden off the car, so...
Well, hold on. We're going to replay it again for you, Tony. If you can just come over here, we can have a look at it on the screen. Tell us about it.
Well, there's not much to tell. You know, we're coming down. I flashed my lights so the slower car could see me. I turned in, I thought quite cleanly I had enough room. But as I've gone past him, where is it?
Coming up.
Okay, as I've gone past there, you know, you should have seen my door, but he's come across and touched the back of my guard, which has put me across into the other side. And that was it, you know, you lost control of the car then. Oh well. At least I'm all right, so that's the main thing. But, you know, we just totaled a $200,000 car.
You've still got little bits of it on your face too, I might tell you.
Yeah, well, I think I should go to the ambulance bay and get that fixed up.
All right, Tony, look, I'm sorry to talk to you in such circumstances. You're running well.
Thank you.
Dramatic day here on the Wellington waterfront. The Armour All Protect and replay showing the action there with car 25, Tony Longhurst at the wheel of the BMW M3, which is now totaled, as you heard from Tony Longhurst. And the race at this stage is under the yellow flag. When we come back, we'll update the situation and hopefully everything will be cleared for a restart. Three Sport with the car that was leading the Nissan Mobil 500, the 25 BMW. Now we're headed for a restart, and David Ox can tell us exactly what's happening.
Well, the pace car lights have gone out. We've seen that before, so that indicates they've got half a lap to go. The cars aren't allowed to pass the pace car. It will pull off, and we will get a restart from, well, 10 or 20 seconds away.
The leading cars at this stage now means that it's Manuel Pirro in front in the #1 BMW. Peter Brock and Larry Perkins in the Holden Commodore now second. Denny Holm and Robbie Francevic have moved up to third place. Then it's followed by Graham Crosby and Kevin Waldock in fourth. And fifth, it's Kane Scott, Brett Riley, Ford Sierra. Then, of course, we had the, at that stage, the Longhurst Jones BMW, which on corrected time has now dropped back to sixth place. But sadly, dramatically, it's out of the race.
What a terrific job by the course people. That mess, I mean, there was just bits and muck and liquid and oil everywhere. The forklift came out, got rid of it. We didn't stop the race. I miscued there, I'm sorry, but obviously the pace car has been vindicated. The perfect use of this operation. The race has kept momentum. Everyone is still hot, ready for a go. We have a restart.
Racing again in the Nissan Mobil 500. This is the second restart of the race, and it's Emanuele Pirro with Joachim Winkelhock. Winkelhock at the wheel of the BMW M3 down through to Castrol, and it's the Radicic Johnson Ford Sierra with Paul Radisich at the wheel, right behind him now. Winkelhock out in front. The next car to watch out for will be Larry Perkins. They're actually going at race pace.
Well, yes, but remember, the rain's back with us. Part of this whole scene of Wellington, it's really turned murky here. The rain's blowing in from both sides. And, well, Piero, you can just look at the wiper blades. The pictures tell the story. He's hard on the
end of Cable Street. And that's the second time we've seen a Sierra do that.
The cars are jumping and ducking and diving. The wheels are off the ground as much as they're on it.
There's Vic Ferguson losing it, going straight into the Armco at the end of the hairpin.
Fred Gibson, 1.5 hours into the race. You've now sorted out what the problem is. Can you tell us about it?
Yes, Murray, we've broken the front diff. Cable Street's taken this toll on the car, and the bumps have broke the front differential, probably stripped the crown wheel. So, like, as you see on the TV, it's jumping all over the track down there, and it's stripped all the teeth off. See, the car weighed, we did an exercise this morning, the car weighed 1,576 kilo with Mark in the car at the start of the race. So it's a big, heavy car, and so it's only rear-wheel drive at present.
Well, Peter Brock is getting out of the car. Now Larry Perkins getting in the car. They're helping each other to strap in. Perkins going in, getting the straps on. The tyres are on. Mechanics getting their hands up. The nuts are being tightened on the back wheels. That's the last part of the formula to be done. And we'll talk to Peter. There goes Larry Perkins. He's flying out of the pits. Cable Street. We're watching the car actually lift off the ground in Cable Street. Is it going to hurt the car or is it going to hurt you?
Yeah, I think it hurts the car if you keep your foot on it. If it keeps accelerating, if the diff is getting that sort of feedback from the ground as it lands and takes off. But, you know, all he can do is try and pick the right-hand side of the road and not fire into it. But after all these holes, it's a pretty strong, reliable cars. We presume it'll take it.
And there's more drama in the pits because we've just seen that the Nissan GTR is back into the pits. Let's go down to Murray Taylor. What's happening, mate?
Well, Flint, I've just spoken with Fred Gibson. Apparently they've come in to change the tyres because they're only running the rear diff. It's running through the rear tyres, so they've had to come in to change tyres because the pressure is now really on this car. It's running as a rear-wheel drive car, and they've chewed out the tyres, so it's a fairly quick stop.
Meanwhile, back on the track, here's the Nissan GTR with the twin turbos and another Toyota Corolla, is it?
Yep. Another flame up. That's obviously what happens when they empty their oil on the exhaust pipe.
Well, this is bad luck because this is the Roderick Oliver Toyota Corolla 55 that was running in the top 6 just a few moments ago. And it looks like it's the end of the race for the guys who finished 6th last year in a Toyota Corolla. And back out in front, here comes Tony Longhurst trying to whip through the gap there. Oh, and Longhurst has hit the wall! Amazing here at the Nissan Mobil 500, and Tony Longhurst has had it off there with John Sachs in the BMW, and that is a big smash right at the entrance to front straight. As we take a look at that again on the replay, and Tony Longhurst just trying to squeeze through the entrance, just clipping the guard of John Sachs and then straight into the Armco. This is the reason why the Wellington street race is so demanding and so grueling. And one mistake, you can get it all wrong. And Tony Longhurst is head there suffering whiplash as they total the $200,000 BMW M3, last year's winning car, out of the race this year in 91. And luckily at this stage, Tony Longhurst has just suffered whiplash and a scratch to the head. So let's update the positions now. And the Nissan Mobil 500 on the road. It's Joachim Winkelhock who leads in the BMW M3, the 3-Sport Castrol Snitcher team. They've done a fantastic job so far today. Larry Perkins in the Holden Commodore 05. Second, Robbie Francevic in the BMW M3. Look at that, the Kiwis getting right up there. And car number 54, the car that was almost out of this race before it started. Graham Crosby in 28, the Queensland Playscape Ford Sierra. Then it's Brent Riley and car number 3 in the Ford Sierra. Richards back in the Nissan GTR, moving up through the field, but they're still well down at this stage. Jimmy Richards running about 6 laps off the leader. Arkle and Slater, the first Porsche in car 15. The Jones Billington Holden Commodore 8th at the moment. And then it was the Tony Longhurst, of course, Alan Jones car, which is out of the race. And now in 10th place, another one of the Porsches, the Owen Evans Bill Farmer. And that's the distance behind the leading car, 15 minutes off the pace. Then it's Neil Allport and Gowdy in the Cosworth Sierra in the Group N classification. And then it's Steve Willie, McGregor, Dempsey, a little wee Toyota Corolla leading the Class C battle in 12th place. 15th place, Heffernan and Butler on a Toyota Corolla. Possumborn and Trevor Crow in the Subaru Legacy, still running in the top 15. The Boldwell and Barrow Ford Sierra car 44. Ferguson and Williams. This is the Porsche with Ray Williams and Vic Ferguson in 16th place at the moment. The Pateman Field Ford Laser, another one of the smaller cars in the field, in 17th place at the moment. Then it's the car 64, the Toyota Corolla of Kennedy and Stoneman in 18th place. Car 19, the Scott Glass and Mitsubishi Galant VR4. And rounding out the top 20, it's Dick Johnson and Paul Radisich in the Ford Sierra, having trouble with their back diff earlier today. And then it's the Bold Bait, car 52, Holden Commodore in 21st place at the moment. That's Larry Perkins. So it means now it's the BMW M3 with a handy lead, and the car that was really starting to challenge Tony Longhurst and the BMW M3, the B&H car, out of the race with that dramatic crash with Tony Longhurst out the wheel.
Well, this car is the one that really holds the key to what happens and unfolds in this race. If it rains, of course. Well, this, of course, is the car that will hold the key to the success or otherwise of the BMW in the great race, because if it rains, and at this point it seems to be holding off again, Wellington being Wellington, it's cooled off or dried off a little bit. For the last 2 laps, the BMW was dropping 15 seconds a lap off its times of earlier in the race. So obviously the track was very wet. If it had to come in for a tyre change to go to slicks, it would advantage the Mobil team because they could do their tyre change at the scheduled fuel stop. So not over yet by any stretch of the imagination. This car is only leading by 30 seconds over Peter Brock, Larry Perkins at the wheel. There is another driving spell for Brocky, and if the rain comes down, this car will have to stop for rubber too. It becomes very, very even. It's not over yet. Plenty of action here in the Nissan Mobil 500.
It's almost another little wee clash there as we go back to the Nissan Mobil gates there. And that was the Commodore getting mixed up with the little wee Nissan Pulsar GTI. One of the problems, BL, threading your eye of the needle there through the traffic.
Yeah, I think it's the race is starting to move on now, and drivers, whether they realise it or not, are probably starting to suffer perhaps not so much physical fatigue but mental fatigue, and it was encouraging to hear Pirro be very complimentary to the slower drivers.
This is John Sachs involved in that crash with Tony Longhurst. We think he's got a broken foot. That's the reason why he's been wheeled off the track. Tragic day for him with that accident, but he looks to be in good spirits and reliving the memories of that entrance into the main straight. So it's all happening in the Nissan Mobil 500. Stay with us.
But the wet weather tyres are going on, and let's see who's going to be the first out of the pit. And it's Winkelhock taking a drink as they get the wets on at the front, and right behind him Peter Brock getting the wets on, and they're ready to roll. Hello, there seems to be a problem. They're wiping he wants to inside the windscreen wipe, and that's Winkelhock. Jochen Winkelhock get away very quick, but they're still wiping the inside of the windscreen of the 05 car, and away he goes this time. By crikey. Let's have a quick word though with the Brock pit and just see exactly why they took quite so long with that. And Larry Perkins, a lot of time spent on that pit stop. Peter, very particular about the windscreen, was he?
Well, it's fogged up, very hard to see.
Is there any way you can defeat that? Do they have any sort of ventilation system?
Get it to stop raining.
All right, well, that's a simple answer, I suppose. But yes, the BMW team were the quickest.
Back out on the track now, and it's Peter Brock as we sweep across the Wellington waterfront, heading down towards Jervois Quay, and all the big guns out there with the wet tyres.
All that seems to have done is just shift the game one step right. I mean, they've both come in for wet tyres. It only would really have been interesting if one of them elected to stay out. So it still can dry out a bit, and we still could have another tyre change. The reason that one car took longer than the other, I suspect, is because it was just a tyre change. And on a tyre change only basis, the single nut locking of the BMW is a quicker wheel to change than the 5 nuts of the big Holden.
Just try and update the situation for you with the driver changes and the lead difference between Winkelhock back to Peter Brock and then Denny Holm.
That's not snow yet.
That's what the rain looks like from the camera's point of view.
That overhead projector too, certainly giving us an idea as to how much the road markings are evident there, which is also going to make the road an awful lot more slippery, just like they've got the Nissan Mobil logo painted down there on the start-finish line. Fortunately, it's in a straight line, but the white line certainly playing hell.
Peter Brock at the moment seems to be having difficulty seeing in the with the conditions. He had his windscreen white before. This is the job, as you can see from Brocky's bumper, getting an idea of just how wet it is out there on the track and just how slippery it is. But he was been talking back and having a bit of trouble seeing from the windscreen. Coming down through the slippery part of the circuit by the hairpin. And a lot of this circuit, because it is bumpy, he's actually taken out the mini cams in the Nissan car. It's bounced around that much and had trouble with the diff. Brocky. Try and have a chat with Peter Brock and David Oxton.
TV3 to Peter Brock. Can you hear us, Peter? TV3 to Peter Brock. Can you read us?
Just having trouble getting through to Peter Brock.
TV3 to Peter Brock. Can you read us?
Or what? At the moment, you're seeing Peter Brock there just trying to get through to David Oxton from having a bit of typical trouble. And what's happened at the moment, when they cleaned the windscreen, they just knocked the face cam just to the right a bit. So Peter Brock working hard in the Commodore. Well, and now here's some real action at the chicane. Looks like 2 cars have overshot there in the wet weather. That's number 12. That's the Field Pankman Corolla. Laser, I should say.
Kevin Pateman, a good little peddler of these Group N cars. This was the Laser Turbo that the Ford dealer team, or the Ford team, ran a couple of years ago, and it's been a very, very successful little car.
All right, just going from the Armour All protected replay. There's action back down in the pits. We'll try and find out what's happening with John Cardwell.
Well, Brocky's back in the pits, but I'll tell you what, he's not going to muck around. We've got to get out of the way. And it's just another wipe of the windscreen as he shoots by us at extra fast speed. And yes, that's all it was, just a wipe of the windscreen, Clint.
All right, thanks, John. I know it's a very busy day down there in the pits with the cars screaming in and screaming out, especially with this sort of situation. Peter Brock trying to catch up. 2 minutes 34 behind Joachim Winkelhock. And then another 8 minutes back to Denny Holm, Robbie Francevic, that BMW. Look at Brocky down the back straight here.
He's got a good buffer over the 3rd place car. That's the Italian Ceramics BMW of Denny Holm and Robbie Francevic. But Brock is also a master in the wet, but he'll be wanting to keep things nice and smooth, as he says, keep that rhythm flowing. He revels in conditions like this. 8 times Bathurst winner. He's had a pretty good run here. He won the event here first in 1986. He repeated it in 87 with Alan Moffat. Not a top 6 finish.
Had a great drive in the wet here 2 years ago, didn't he?
Very spectacular man.
Had a Holden Commodore as well. Had a bit of a break in a BMW and a Ford Sierra. But back behind the big V8 and second last year. He is currently second this year. So just like Bathurst, he's got a pretty good record. In fact, the most consistent record. But talking of consistency, the BMW M3s of the Snitches on target to make it 4 in a row this year into the last hour of the great race.
We've got 5 different types of cars in the top 10. We've got a BMW, the Commodore, the Ford Sierra, the Nissan and the Porsche. That's a great drive coming from Nigel Arkell and David Slater in the Porsche. They're running in 6th position at the moment, having completed 106 laps to Winkelhock and Emanuele Pirro's 115.
Three Sport, one of the stories of this year's Nissan Mobil 500 has been the performance of the car 54, Denny Holm and Robbie Francevic, with the 85 winner of the Wellington Street Race behind the wheel at the moment. And after almost not fronting up to the race because of the situation with the car being held up by the receivers and then rented off by the receivers with fastaway couriers coming in. It's turned out to be a great day for the Kiwis, and Robbie Francevic and Denny Holm look like being on target to be those first Kiwis home this year.
It's all sort of relative here, but in sort of relative terms, it's drying out. It's not as heavy as it was. It's not actually raining. It's actually getting quite light at the hairpin. The track is obviously very wet, but as a long-term proposition, it could be that they'll get to look for what they call wet lines. If you run a wet tyre in dry conditions, it overheats and falls to bits. So the guys will be, at this stage, it's not a problem. Just think about it and watch for this later on.
Well, while Robbie's at the wheel, let's go down to John Carble in the pits. He's got the bear standing by. He's going to do the double. First Kiwi at Bathurst, possibly the first Kiwi home in Wellington. Denny Holm.
Denny, it's been an action-packed race, hasn't it? I mean, there's been something happening every minute.
All the way around here. It really has been a problem, but you know, we knew it was going to be like this, and patience will pay off this weekend.
Robbie's doing a pretty good job for you out there too at the moment, I see.
Yes, he's out on the wets, and just before he came in, I noticed he'd been off the circuit somewhere and damaged the front rim on the dries, so he came in automatically and fitted the wets, and I think we're going good now.
Tell me, Denny, just looking at it, a very good chance being the first Kiwi home in this race.
Well, yes, unless Crosby beats us home, but the main thing is I just want to finish.
Yeah, and of course, you know, this must be more than you expected as the way it's shaping up.
Well, I had a couple of side bits thought it would be 4th, but you know, 3rd's not too bad at the moment.
All right, all the very best. Hope we see you on the podium.
Thank you very much, John.
John Cardwell talking to Denny Holm, the gap back between Holm and Graham Crosby. Brian Lawrence, what's that now?
The gap between these two at the moment, they're both on the same lap, and you're looking at probably about 48, 49 seconds, but you've got Robbie Francevic circulating almost 2.5, almost 3 seconds a lap faster than the Kevin Waldock Graham Crosby car. So I think we're going to see a nice consistent performance from Francevic.
All right, here is Peter Brock at the wheel of the 05 Holden Commodore. Let's go down to Larry Perkins to see what some of the problems have been for Brocky in the last few laps.
Larry Perkins, 40 minutes to go in the race. That was really unfortunate, that second stop, the window fogging up.
Yes, we had to do it though. He couldn't see, and we're quite some seconds behind the BMW, so it was unlikely that we could have made up that ground all being equal, so we had to be conservative and play it safe and you know, defog the screen.
Larry, it was incredible. You both came into the pits at the same time. Was that just a coincidence, or were you watching them?
Oh no, absolutely coincidence. It's a driver's choice to always come in, and we did say on the radio that my opinion was come in, and so I don't know whether he heard me anyway, so it's not unusual though that all drivers on the track read the conditions similar.
Have you had any wet races in Australia this year?
Well, basically no, we had one at the AGP, but we were so short we stayed on slicks, so races on wet tyres we haven't had.
Okay, well, you're on Bridgestone wets. The BMW is on Yokohama's. Do you know what the comparison is between them performance-wise?
No, we don't. It's a very hard one to say. I'm just looking at the lap times here. I see the BMW's dropped nearly 20 seconds a lap, and you know, it looks like we're exactly the same. We've dropped 20 seconds a lap too, so things are status quo.
Well, it's still wide open, you know. There's still, what do we got, say, 40 minutes to go. You know motor racing, Larry, anything could happen still.
Oh, yeah, like you'd be a fool to say that this is the way the results are going to be. 40 laps around here, or 40 minutes, it's a long way, and we've seen what can happen to a lot of the other runners who aren't with us now, and we've just got to pay attention, keep out of trouble, keep it all reliable and press on.
Well, you've done your stint as a driver. Now you stand in the pits and worry as a team manager, Larry.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'd prefer to be driving, actually.
OK, well, all the best for the rest of the race.
Thanks very much.
Larry Perkins with Murray Taylor with that pit report. And Brocky behind the wheel of the big grunter. Now, what about the racing lines? Brian Lawrence, just that corner a few moments ago, we almost saw the BMW behind him just about slide into the arm coat.
He's probably trying to stay off the white lines as much as possible, so you get the absolute maximum of traction, trying to perhaps keep it flowing, maybe open up the arc, but still looking for the apex at the right time, trying to avoid making sharp turns, making aggressive maneuvers either on the brakes, keeping it nice and smooth all the time. In fact, the smoother the better, because it always winds up to be an awful lot faster. It's a lot easier on the car, because once they break loose on this sort of surface, as we've seen it before, that wall takes absolutely no prisoners whatsoever.
Looks to be one of the wetter parts of the circuit, the Jervois Key area, with the big Commodore of Bob Jones and John Billington.
They always seem to get into this position at this part of the race. John Billington always can be relied upon for a top 6 place, and Bob Jones having a good run too with the Aussie Holden. It's the VL model. It's the last model before the VN that's currently being run by Brock. Not a lot of sponsorship there, but running well.
What would have been particularly good under these conditions would be the four-wheel drive Nissan, the GTR of the duo of Jim Richards and Mark Skaife. We'll go down now and talk to Fred Gibson.
Fred, these are exactly the conditions you would have been hoping for with a four-wheel drive Nissan, surely.
Yes, it would have been, Murray. It would have been excellent for us now, because the car really shines on these conditions, greasy track. But the car's not doing too bad, Murray. It's probably about 3 seconds faster than anyone else except the BMW. So that's not too bad. We're catching everyone except the Winkelhock.
OK, and the wets, they're holding up OK?
Yeah, they're fine. It's a matter, I suppose our challenge now is trying to get back to third spot. So we're catching 10 seconds a lap on Kevin Waldock. So if we keep doing that for another half an hour or so, we might beat him.
What's the gap at the moment?
Oh, we're sort of a lap behind him. So I think we'll get that lap back before the finish.
OK, well, all the best, Fred.
Thanks, Murray. Thanks very much.
Well, that could be a fantastic race within the race, as Jimmy Richards behind the wheel of Godzilla had all their chances of winning the race destroyed with those 3 unscheduled pit stops in the first hour with problems to the car. They've sorted those problems out. At the moment, Jimmy Richards, he's been turning in times around about 1:46. He's just a lap down on the car, which is third at the moment. They've got to get up and pass Denny Holm and Robbie Francevic to try and grab that top 3 position, but they're just closing in on Graham Crosby in the Ford Sierra. He's doing around about 1:55, so they are 10 seconds quicker than Cros at this stage. Do you think he can catch him, Brian?
I think he might. Richards is a very accomplished wet weather driver, and that's not taking anything away from Cros, who's doing a good job on that car. It's the Queensland car. It's hardly got a mark on. It's probably got a few bugs on it, which have been washed off it now anyway. But Richo's very smooth through the traffic, and probably Cros will be being kept aware by Ross Stone of the progress that the Nissan's making on him. So it'll be interesting over the next few laps to see exactly how much they're going to pull him back on. The Sierra's in 4th, the Nissan's in 5th, and of course the top 3 still Pirro and Winkelhock, Brock and Perkins, Holman, Francevic, and what a grand drive. Coming there in 6th position is the Porsche 911 of Nigel Arkell and David Slater. They're circulating in times of 2 minutes and 2 seconds compared to Winkelhock at 1 minute 45. But this is a tremendous drive from these two guys.
Good move to bring the Porsches in this year.
I think it is. There were a lot of people that were critical about it. I must admit, I sat back along with some others and had a think about it and said, what's it going to do to this race? But the paying public, this is the entertainment industry, and people now have a much better variety of where they can go and spend their entertainment dollar. They want to see cars racing safely side by side. They want good, exciting stuff, and I don't think it really matters what sort of cars they are.
So we think it's Dave Slater at the wheel at the moment in the Porsche, with Dick Johnson just screaming through the hairpin there. The sweeper.
Sweeper seems to be drying out noticeably on the exit. I reckon we're getting a dry line, and of course what that does is still greasy though, because he got a bit tail happy coming off the turn. I think I'd be sticking on groovies. I wouldn't be brave enough to go for those slickies.
Well, the weather has actually cleared looking back over the Hutt Valley. It's a lot better than it was about 10-15 minutes ago.
It's lovely, isn't it, really, though, Wellington? You can always rely upon it to just take a dump and you know. Do they have summer here?
They have some fantastic weather in windy Wellington. Some glorious days. There is the dry lines, as you can see from the aerial shot of 3 Sport. You can follow the racers as they stay away from the wet. And here's one of our 35 cameras away up here, high and wide. How you doing, Ellie?
This is what you call
Ellie's
dedication.
doing a great job. Yeah. Concentrating on the job at hand, and one of the shots that you can see looking back down over pit lane, harnessed. And Ellie from the top of the building. And he caught the long crash today too.
Does he have a safe?
The long crash.
Does he have a safety net?
Longhurst.
Does he have a safety net?
Well, he's buckled in. And this is the shot that caught the crash with Longhurst trying to whip through on the inside to the start of the straight, clipped into John Sachs, and then the rest is history. It's all wall-to-wall action, and for the Longhurst Jones team, it's wall-to-wall tragedy. And this is one of the reasons why we have so many cameras all around the circuit to catch the action with the Armour All protected replay.
One thing impresses me about that, you guys, is that that car took a heck of a beating there. It remained structurally protected for the driver. And this is, you know, we really concentrate in racing on keeping our people safe. The drivers wear fireproof suits, you know, the flame crushers, to make sure they're safe in a fire incident. The roll cages inside are structurally there to protect them in the form of a big impact. So I think it vindicates not just racing cars, but the beautiful strength of that BMW car in a crash condition.
And where the races meet the road, and those things learned in motor racing are passed on to the road cars.
It does have a follow-on, I'm sure.
Okay, look at the track now with Joachim Winkelhock. He's got the windscreen wiper going, but as you can see on the track, it is starting to dry.
What they'll be looking for now, if there's no more rain forecast, is that they'll be trying to find a fast line while still maintaining a damp line, because as David pointed out to you before, this is the shot from the Castrol BMW, the 3 Sport car, is that they'll be looking for a wet line to try and keep these tyres as cool as they possibly can, because when they get hot, they break up, they're no good. You can see how quickly it's drying. There's still a lot of cars on the circuit there, and this particular surface at Wellington does dry out quite quickly.
This is the bumpy part of the circuit as they race down Cable Street. Joachim Winkelhock behind the wheel of the car, which has been so superb here over the last 3 years. Are they on target for a 4th win? Three Sport just checking out the action here with Jim Richards getting caught up in the traffic and missing the chicane at the end of Jervois Key, so that means he's lost some valuable time trying to close the gap on Denny Holm in 3rd place at this stage. So it's Winkelhock out in front in car 1, Brock in 2nd in the 05 Holden Commodore, Denny Holm and Robbie Francevic at the wheel with racer Robbie. Car 54 on the BMW M3 in 3rd. Crosby still holding off in 4th place. Richards trying to close the gap at this stage. He's still just a lap down behind Graham Crosby, trying to close in on the top 3 finish. That was the aim that Freddie Gibson was talking about. Then there it is, the Commodore of Billington and Jones now up to 6th place.
It's definitely stopped raining now.
Arkell and Dave Slater, with Dave Slater at the wheel of car 15, number 7th at the moment. Then it's the Allport car 94. Ford Sierra Cosworth, and then it's another Porsche with Evans Farmer Liston. Porsche there, the one they completely rebuilt last night, running inside the top 10. They'll have a fantastic party tonight after finishing their aim of finishing the race. Well, at this stage they're still on the road, which is good for them, and finishing inside the top 10.
I'm really impressed with the way most of the guys, and I mean 98% of the guys, move over and let these quick guys through. I mean, it's hard enough, as we said before, just to keep yourself pointing in the right direction, keep your mind together. The strain on these blokes after the time they've been out there, it's hard going, and they're as good as any bunch of tail end Charlies or shopping baskets as I've ever seen. Second in class is the place for Greg Goody and Neil Allport. In fact, he's now moved
it's an interesting battle
place
between the two rally drivers, Neil Allport and Possum Bourne.
Well, the gravel rashes, yeah.
With Gertie and Trevor Crow. And the Allport car leading at this stage, with the Possum Bourne car in second place in the Group N class. Almost giving a friendly nudge to, I think, Ray Williams might be in the Porsche by now. Is that Trevor Crow back behind the wheel of the Subaru.
The Group N cars very rarely muck around with the luxury of treaded tyres and slick tyres. They have a combined intermediate type tyre which copes with most conditions. But there's that dry line. It's one and a bit car's width, and the tyre that will be on that car at the present time obviously likes being more in the dry area. But I think if you watch Brocky in a similar situation, he'll be looking to move over to the edge to cool his wet weather tyres.
That part of the track down Cable Street has certainly dried out a lot more than other parts of the track. This is the current Group N placings, with the car 94 out in front, the Crow Bourne Subaru in second place. Then it's the bold Bate Holden Commodore in third place. Scott Glassett in the Mitsubishi Galant VR4. Then it's the Pateman Field Ford Laser, followed by the Lamont Anderson Holden Commodore. The mechanics doing a lot of work on that car overnight as well. Currently in 8th place in the Group N and NZ class as well. It's the Davidson, Paddy Davidson, Max Pennington Nissan GTIR, another race driver, rally driver from Oporiki, Paddy Davidson. That's the son of the Godzilla, the Nissan GTR out there.
Well, watch this. We've got some action. The BMW has elected to go to slick tyres, so Joachim Winkelhock brings it in.
Well, talking to you from the pits, and here he comes in, it's Joachim Winkelhock, and the wet tyres are coming off, and they're putting on intermediates. You'll notice I've got a very slight pattern on them. Those are the intermediate tyres. David will tell you all about those in a moment. As Joachim takes a little drink, a little bit of the mineral water, the tyres are going on. There doesn't seem to be too many problems at all. Have a quick chat with Charlie Lamb, the team manager, just as the car zips away. There goes the bottle out the window, and away goes Joachim Winkelhock. And Charlie, intermediates all the way? No, Charlie doesn't want to talk to us. He's busy. He's got work to do. So there you are. That's the choice. David, you can tell us what intermediates are.
Their lead on the road back to Peter Brock is 1:53, and they're 2 laps in front.
Intermediates usually are classified as grooved slicks. We'll go in and have a look at this wet weather tyre that the boys have taken off. I think you'll find it'll be starting to chunk and break the centres out. If we can just get that big thumb. It's been working good, that tyre, but you'll see little around the edges there, it's probably just starting to break up. It had good life left in it, but Charlie's taking no chances. He wants to know where he's going to be on the last lap. So what we'll have now is a tyre which is totally flat, called a slick tyre, but with hand groove little chisel marks just to help it to break through some of the damp conditions. It's a very brave boy that can drive a car around a greasy track like this. At least when he has to go around cars, he has to move off the dry line onto the damp line, and that's where the action could happen.
Still not too much pressure for the Winkelhock car at this stage, because Brock and Perkins back in second place are 2 minutes behind, and they're getting ready for a pit change as well. And it's the Nissan also coming in for some dry weather tyres. So the whole field now coming off the wets, going back onto the slicks.
So the Nissan team originally, Clint, put out the intermediates, but they changed their mind. They put the intermediates away in the last minute, and they've put the slicks on, and it's a very quick change indeed. Jimmy Richards still behind the wheel.
Look at that, super quick by the Nissan team. Richards at the moment in 5th place, and 6 laps still behind Joachim Winkelhock.
Well, the only way, Holden fans, that this man can talk about winning this race technically is if he can talk to that bloke upstairs and send some rain down, because right now he's the only bloke really left out there on full rain tyres. And there they are, Dick Johnson, Peter Brock. Peter Brock is staying out on his wets. Dick Johnson has rejoined with probably intermediates, although the hot tip right now might be to go to full dries. What a battle of wits. I think this is neat because it's still up there. Anything can happen. It's still black over Cook Strait.
Still black by Eastbourne too in the Hutt Valley. But at this stage, clear on the road and that dry strip. That's dried out a lot too down the back straight because that was wet around about 15 minutes ago.
See, now Brocky's pulled a big bunch of time on Dick Johnson in that section alone, so it's still warranted in running these tyres. If only we could get another shower, that's really what would make this race.
Well, the gap now back to second place is 157 with Peter Brock on the wet tyres. Remember that Joachim Winkelhock, they've come onto the slicks as the track dries out. Here's Peter Brock inside the Holden Commodore. The face cam just got knocked off centre just a little bit. And the word is that Peter Brock is talking back to the pits there. We'll just go down to John Cardwell to find out exactly what's going on with the Holden Challenge here. And the Commodore catch up to the BMW second and first. That's the second and third last year, actually.
Well, Larry Perkins, you've got some intermediates out behind us here. What's the situation with the tyres? What's the choice?
Well, if it gets worse, gets drier, at least we're ready if he comes in. But you look at it, it's a bit unnecessary. There's only about 12 laps left on our estimation. And the intermediates probably will only go 3 seconds lap quicker. But we're going to lose 60 seconds in total if we come in, which is 5 seconds lap. So it's probably not worth coming in, really.
So you're sort of resigned now to a second place finish, are you, Larry?
Well, unless something mechanically happens to the BMW, yes, we're 110 seconds behind, and there's no way we're going to make that up on the track. So, at some stage you've got to accept it. That may be how it's going to be.
Now, Larry, will you leave it to Peter to make the call on whether he comes in for slicks?
Yes, he'll only come in if he feels he's wet, so getting a bit overheating. If they're overheating, they do risk then losing the tread. But he'll be able to pick that up easily.
Okay, Larry, thank you.
From Yokohama, out from the UK again. I think this is third or fourth year you've been out here. Obviously, this has been quite a race of tyres. What was the change you made there? You went on to an intermediate.
Yeah, because we're getting a dry line around the circuit, but also it's wet off the line, and because of the amount of cars going.
Where's the tyre down here, Keith?
Well, this is the wet tyre, right? Now, these are just purely used in wet conditions. Because of the drying line, as I said, we changed to an intermediate, which also allows Joachim to overtake cars on the wet line or the rest of the circuit.
So the wets are obviously quite a bit softer. The intermediate, is that a racing tyre that you've just hand cut a tread into?
Yeah, that's right. That's all we do. But as you say, the wet tyre is harder tyre, softer tyre. Because when you start going to dry line, it starts to blister, it overheats and blisters. And that really is why they came in and changed them.
It was just starting to feather on the shoulders?
Yeah, that's right, just on the inside shoulder. So Joachim felt something in the left rear, which is the tyre that does most work around this circuit. So
thanks, Keith.
Okay, mate, no problem.
There's
And,
Graham.
they also had a change of tyres. Kevin Waldock, a change of tyres. And by crikey, if we can get this pole cam in around behind us and have a look at these tyres, Heath Ferdingham has chewed them up. We just come in and have a look at these. I'm not going to put my hands on them, I tell you what. Look at the way that tyre has been chewed up out there. Kevin Waldock, obviously the track is heating up as it dries out, and that's the result, the very soft wet weather compounds. And so they've made the choice, and they've gone on to an intermediate tyre, or have you gone on to a dry tyre?
Gone onto a slick.
You've gone onto a slick. So that's the situation with Kevin Waldock's team. They're currently, I believe, David Oxton, you can clear us up on this, in 3rd place in the race.
In 4th place at this stage, the Graham Crosby Kevin Waldock car. This slipped back after a good drive by Robbie Francevic in the BMW M3. That's the battle at the moment for 3rd and 4th. The battle to become the first Kiwi home in this year's Nissan Mobil 500. Graham Crosby trying to catch up on Robbie Francevic in the BMW M3 as they chase Winkelhock out in front of the BMW Snitcher car. Peter Brock staying out there on the wet tyres as the track dries out, and the Holden Commodore 2nd. Sport with Joachim Winkelhock waving the flag there. Was that the winner's flag? Stuck onto the aerial of that car coming down to the main straight, and it's the BMW M3 of the 3 Sport Castrol Snitcher team that have had a superb record here in the Wellington Waterfront race, and that continues today as we count down to the finish of the great race. 10 minutes to go. Winkelhock out in front. They've got a 2-minute cushion, 2-minute 39 in fact, and they're almost a lap to 2 laps in front of Peter Brock back in 2nd place in the Holden Commodore. Then it's a gap back to Denny Holm and Robbie Francevic. Robbie Francevic at the wheel of the BMW M3, followed by Richards and Scaife, now moving up into 4th place on the same lap as Holm and Francevic. So that means that the Kevin Waldock Graham Crosby car that was running 4th has now slipped back to 5th with that late change to the slick tyres by Graham Crosby.
This BMW, of course, features a few more horsepower than last year's winning car, about 30 horsepower up. It also has the anti-lock braking system, which I guess would be a bit of a bonus in these sort of conditions. It would prevent the inevitable lockup under greasy conditions, and certainly a huge benefit today. Just a more refined version of the previously successful models, this is probably the 4th generation of the M3 model, which has raced in this country. We're very lucky every year to have the Snitzer team to come out from Europe and bring this Europeanization to the whole motorsport carnival that's become part of the Wellington street race, the Nissan Mobil 500.
Talking to Emanuele Pirri earlier this week after his win at the Macau Grand Prix. Very confident that the car would do the job. And he'll be off for a break in Fiji in between this weekend and next weekend in Pukekohe. 3 days to relax and unwind. Joachim Winkelhock, though, certainly won't be unwinding at this stage. Keeping the pace up.
Well, there's the lifeline to the little BMW Snitzer car. They don't go for the big communication things. They do have enough information on there to feed the driver. The top line, obviously, is the time, 36.2 seconds. The middle line is the amount of seconds ahead of the next driver. So I guess that would make it 144 seconds or about 2 minutes something. The bottom line is laps to go. 5 laps to go is what Charlie Lamb says it is. So we'll go with him. We'll keep an eye on that, but he's got it worked out. He's calculated back the amount of running time, the amount of laps that are projected for the race distance. He's done his sums. That's his reckoning.
So 5 laps to go for the 4th win in a row. Unbelievable record, isn't it, when you think about it?
Remember all the things that happened to Murray Walker calling Formula 1 races. It's never over until the fat lady sings or whatever it is.
It's been a wet fat lady today.
Well, it's certainly looking good. You certainly can't hold it away from them. But you only have to trip up over one of those little cars getting offline. Those little cars, they have the ability to move quickly, but sometimes they move the wrong way. That's why these Europeans have to be right on the case and be ready for any eventuality.
Jakob Winkelhock last year failed to finish, well, he finished 4th on the second of the 2 BMW snitches last year. A little bit of trouble with Steve Soper, and in fact there's quite a bit of an interesting duel last year between Steve Soper in the number 2 car and Johnny Shikoto in the number 1 car. But this year Jakob Winkelhock getting the drive along with Emanuele Pirro and doing a very slick job.
Well, he had the misfortune to clout the car his car pretty badly at Macau a couple of weeks back, well, last weekend in fact. And he was in doubt for this event because of a strained wrist. But he's obviously a fitness person. He keeps his body in shape, and so with some good manipulation, some good exercises, his wrist is back certainly in working condition, and he probably is feeling it, but it's not showing to us.
It's full credit to some of the smaller cars too in today's race. It's been 400 and something odd kilometres of very, very interesting racing, and you look at through the top 20, and in 20th position we've got the little Nissan GTIR, and we're going to have a look at the profile of Jakob Winkelhock in just a moment.
Jakob Winkelhock, of course, born in Germany, which is where he lives. He's 31 years of age and he's married. He was a student early in his life before he became a full-time race driver. And of course, like most of the people in Europe, he likes pop music. He ran through Formula Fords as part of his early career, and he looked destined to have a single-seater career in mind. He was into Formula 3, won the Formula 3 German Championship. He did reach Formula 1, but the team that he was with really didn't provide him with the goods. He elected to give it away and make a full-on attack with the BMW team, go for touring cars. They're really big in Germany. He certainly picked the top team to do it with.
Jakob Winkelhock in the 3-Sport Castrol BMW M3. Just keeping that car right on race pace. Just overtaking the Subaru Legacy there. One of the 5 Formula 1 drivers in the field. It's a shame that Alan Jones didn't really get a chance to get out there in the Tony Longhurst car. Earlier today, of course, Tony Longhurst taken out, was involved in a big smash in the front straight. But you're riding with Jakob Winkelhock heading towards the remaining laps of this year's Nissan Mobil 500. That's the glary view heading up towards the Hutt Valley, coming down towards the waterfront straight. Let's go for a lap with the number 1 car at this stage.
Well, we must be back with a bit of rain because obviously the wipers indicate what's happening. The wind's blowing up pretty strongly here, and whilst the circuit is dry, it looks like the rain's back on the way. But 4 laps to go. They could just about push those cars around and still win. Well, 1 minute, 2 minutes, close on 3 minutes in the lead at this present time from Emanuele Pirro. 3 minutes 26 seconds according to the official Unisys information. So it's a heck of a lead.
And while that car has now been controlling the lead, this man, Jimmy Richards, going by our calculations at this stage, has just moved up into 3rd place, which is a fantastic effort by the hard-charging gentleman of touring cars from Australia, the current Australian touring car champion, Bathurst champion. Had all sorts of problems today with the supercar, but now he's been circulating with 139s around about the same time as the BMW, and he's worked his way back up into the top 3, which was the aim that Freddie Gibson was telling us earlier today. So this has been a super drive by Richo.
He was always good. He's good in the wet, he's good in the dry, and just looking at the lap times at the moment as Winkelhock's turning in a 1:38.02, and then we've got Peter Brock and the Holden Commodore at 1:49, but remember that's on wet weather tyres.
And he's 2 laps down.
And he's a little reluctant to come in. The Richards car, 1:37, so that's actually the fastest car on the road at the moment, turning in the same lap time as what Kevin Waldock is in the Queensland car.
That's actually 3 laps behind Peter Brock at this stage too. It's probably not enough time for Jim Richards to try and catch Brocky. So Jim Richards in the Nissan GTR will finish the race after 3 unscheduled pit stops when they had problems with the diff earlier today, and they thought there was tyre problems. Mark Scaife at the wheel. So it looked like it was going to be a day of disaster. That's how long to go as they count down the first to 5 hours or 500 kilometers or 4 hours.
Counting down. 4 minutes 23 and counting down.
So this is the car that's second. Peter Brock. He was second last year. And he's doing a good job at this stage, even though he's decided to stay out there. The problem with Peter Brock, though, we suspect he's got communications problems back to the pits. And he wasn't too sure whether he should come in and change over to the dry tyres. So he's decided to stay out there on the wet. While it's just starting to spit again, it's still not enough to really possibly give Peter Brock an advantage with those wet tyres.
Dick Johnson fans and Ford Sierra fans, you've got to believe that a Sierra Turbo around a greasy track like this has got to be a handful, because that dreaded thing called the boost, when it comes in, there's a bit of lag in the throttle response, and before you know it, you'll be doing a whoop-de-woo it into the Armco. So I'm sure Dick's not wanting to do any damage to the team car at this point of the day.
So Peter Brock going down towards the hairpin, 3 laps behind. Jimmy Richards in the Nissan GTR trying to close. And Richards is 13 seconds quicker at the moment going around the circuit, but he's still around about 3 or 4 laps down, trying to close that gap on the leading car of Jochen Winkelhock. And then it goes back to Holm and Francevic, Robbie Francevic in the BMW M3 in 4th place in car 54. And then it's Graham Crosby in car 28, the Ford Sierra, in 5th place.
Is that a very good run since he's been here? Just going through the history books here, Peter Brock, he's had 2 wins. He's finished 2nd on 1 occasion, 4th on 2 occasions, and 5th on 1. That's not a bad effort.
On target to pick up another 2nd here today.
The best of the little cars at this time would obviously be Steve Willey and the little Toyota Corolla.
They're in 13th place.
Yes, Steve Willey leading out from one of the little lathes. I guess it'd be the Pateman Field Ford Laser TX. So great effort at this stage by those guys. Greg Goody and Neil Allport leading Group N. So that's a nice effort too. They're in 8th place.
Here is the lead car at this stage. It's Jochen Winkelhock. This could be the last lap. Or possibly 2 laps to go. Just trying to clarify the situation for you. It's Jochen Winkelhock. All sorts of signals going across pit lane at the moment, but Jochen Winkelhock doing a great job behind the wheel. Heading down towards the fast part of the track this year, the Cable Street Sweeper. And he's just cruising at this stage. He's got a huge cushion over Peter Brock. 3 minutes 50. Back to the 2nd place car, Peter Brock. Then it goes back to Jim Richards in 3rd. So it's Jochen Winkelhock and the BMW Stitcher team and the 3-Sport Castrol BMW M3, the new Evolution model, coming around now. He's done a fantastic job. The crowd gets set along the start-finish line. Charlie Lamb, an exciting moment for the Stitcher team, a fantastic record here over the last 4 years. They'll make it 4 in a row, which is absolutely unbelievable, and Emanuele Pirro will have 4 drives and 4 wins. And Jochen Winkelhock coming down for the great moment of the Nissan Mobil 500 for 1991, and Joachim Winkelhock down the main straight, takes the checkered flag. It's 4 in a row for the BMW Snitcher team, and a magnificent effort by Joachim Winkelhock and Emanuele Pirro, winning the Nissan Mobil 500 for 1991. Unbelievable record. Peter Brock crosses the line in second place, and we'll keep our eye out for the third car. It's the Nissan GTR of Jimmy Richards. Peter Brock second in the Commodore. So after 4 hours, 500 kilometres, the Nissan GTR, all sorts of troubles earlier in the day, but a great drive by Jimmy Richards to come back through the field, 6 laps down on the winning car, but they've got back into the top 3. Gentlemen, Jim Richards third this year in the great race, and a great drive too. So we'll just confirm the celebrations for Charlie Lamb and the BMW Snitcher team. They have an unbelievable record around the streets of Wellington. A great moment there for Charlie and Emanuele Pirro. Another fantastic drive, put the car on pole. They led almost from start to finish. Mark Scaife got off to a screamer, but once the Nissan went into the pits, it's been the #1 car, the 3-Sport Castrol BMW M3 all the way, flashing the lights for victory. So Joachim Winkelhock, the lap of honour now, and we'll go through and chat to the winners in just a moment, confirm all the class placings. So Emanuele Pirro makes it 4 in a row. Joachim Winkelhock gets his first win on the streets of Wellington, and the BMW Snitcher team and improve that already amazing record.
Well, they've won 2 Group A races in a week. That's going to be pretty neat too. They flew this car in from Hong Kong, Macau last weekend, cleaned up down in Wellington. They've got Pukekohe next weekend, of course, and can they do it 3 on the row?
All right, let's go down to John Cardwell and catch up with the winning drive this year. It goes to BMW for the 4th time in a row.
Hey, Emanuele, you seem very happy.
Yes, very, very happy.
4 in a row, man, that's great.
Yes, it's not an easy race. It's very difficult, and to win 4 times makes me very happy.
Joachim, great stuff. Great drive, man.
I don't know what I can say. I'm so happy.
You really had the pressure on you, though, didn't you?
No, only what I have to do to finish the car without every problems, and I do this.
All right, congratulations. So you got some champagne to collect. Charlie Lamb, Charlie, come in here, mate. Charlie, congratulations. This must make you really happy. 4 in a row, man. That's unbelievable.
Yes, it does. And I mean, it was a difficult race because of the weather situation. I'm really happy having it done this way.
And I'll tell you what, we asked you last year, would you come back? Would you come back for 5?
Well, tell me when you race in 1992. Maybe look.
All right, let's try and get one more word with Emanuele Pirro, who does have a job to do here. Emanuele, congratulations. The victory, how does this one rate with the other 3?
Well, this year we have been also very competitive in terms of speed. And I mean, one is better than the other, and the next one will be better than this one. I'm really, really happy.
Tell me, I just asked Charlie, come back for 5. Would you come back for a 5th?
Well, I always try hard. It's not so easy for me to find some time at this time of the year with the Formula 1 program, but I know it's my 5th time here, and why not the 6th?
And of course, next weekend we've got Pukekohe too, so something else we'd look forward to.
Yes, of course, but Pukekohe wasn't very lucky in the past. I don't know why.
All right, well, congratulations to you on winning the Nissan Mobil 500, an action-packed one. Congratulations.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
The wink of success from Emanuele Pirro and the BMW Snitcher team. A fantastic win by them, a fantastic effort over the last 4 years. When we come back, the presentation and the prize giving for the winners of the Nissan Mobil 500. Sport, welcome back live, and this is the action as Joachim Winkelhock takes the checkered flag and wins the Nissan Mobil 500. Second, Peter Brock. Third, Jimmy Richards. A great day for the BMWs. Let's go down to the presentation now and the prize giving.
Let's get them up here. Unbelievable, came from 25th place after the front diff on the car went, ended up driving the whole way with rear-wheel drive only. So much for the four-wheel drive Godzilla. But here they are, the guys are here. Jeff Atkinson's going to do the honours with the Nissan Mobil 500 Wellington 91 mementos, the sashes, not the prize the boys came for, but I'm sure they're going to be more than well pleased with that. Okay, Jeff Atkinson from Mobil Oil does the honours to the boys. Let's call up in second place, crowd favourites Peter Brock and Larry Perkins in the Mobil 1 Holden Commodore. Great stuff to see these guys up on the stage. It's nice to get together the Nissan and the Mobil team. Make the sponsors' day. Mr. Fuji stands there and watches as the Nissan guys stand beside him. Mr. Atkinson does the honours with the Mobil boys. Mr. Fuji also has the trophy for the guys. Righto, we're going to talk to these people very shortly, but first of all, let's call up the winners today from an incredible fourth time in a row, Emanuele Pirro from Italy and Joachim Winkelhock from Germany. Fantastic. In the Castrol BMW #1 from the Schnitzer Motorsport team in Germany. They come here and done it for the fourth time in a row. Unbelievable stuff. They were not rated the guys to take pole position, but there they went and did it. What about this? You guys have gone quiet. What's happening there? You yelled at these people all the way through the race. Let's hear it for Emanuele and Joachim Winkelhock. Where's the champers for the team? Okay, let's talk to Joachim first, because he's the man that's just hopped out of the car. Joachim, how was that last session coming through the rain, the wet, the rain again?
Very bad like shit, but okay. It was not easy for me to really take it down. So it was very
That's the action down here at the moment with the prize giving and the presentation of the winners, the big three, the big guns for this year's Nissan Mobil 500. And as they look back at the great race, let's do exactly the same with highlights of this year's clash, the street scrap on the streets of Wellington. Pirro, four-time champion, and there is that result. A brilliant effort by the BMWs, first in car 1, second Peter Brock, Larry Perkins in the Holden Commodore 05. Third, Jim Richards and Mark Scape. What a drive coming back from all those troubles to finish third. Jimmy Richards, first finish in the great race. Denny Holm and Robbie Francevic finishing in fourth in car 54. The first Kiwis home this year in the BMW M3. Let's go with the trackside wrap with the two winners from the Kiwis.
Robbie Francevic, winner of the very first Wellington street race here in 1985. First Kiwi home today. How was it?
Oh, it was great supporting Dennis. He did a fantastic job. I did a lousy job, but at least I kept it on the track, and that's the main thing.
It certainly was wet. Denny, how was your race?
My stint went very well indeed. I had no problems at all with the car. And when the confusion with the Tony Longhurst car out the front, I thought the pit lane was open and the road was blocked. So dived in, got a fresh set of tyres. Robbie got in, we were away and got to go out the pit gate with no hold-ups.
Pretty grim at the end there, Robbie. Difficult conditions.
Yeah, it was when the rain came, but then the car wasn't too bad on slicks. It just once it dried out, a couple of the cars came in and put slicks on, and then that made them a lot quicker, but it was no problem.
Robbie, congratulations. Denny, congratulations. First Kiwis home.
So continuing the complete wrap-up of this year's Nissan Mobil 500 as we go back through the field. Denny Holm and Robbie Francevic, which that very close tussle. They were running third at one stage before Richo got up. So I suppose you could say that Jimmy Richards was also the first Kiwi home, finishing in third place, the expatriate New Zealander. But these, of course, are the guys who actually live here in NZ at the moment. Graham Crosby finishing in fifth place with Kevin Waldock in the Ford Sierra. And then it's Jones and Billington in the Holden Commodore in sixth place. Looking back at the rest of the field, Nigel Arkell and Dave Slater, the first of the Class D Porsches, finishing in seventh place. A great effort by them. Then in eighth place, the first of the Group N cars, the rally man Neil Allport and Greg Gordy in car 94, the Ford Sierra Cosworth in eighth place. And then another effort by Evans and Farmer. Bill Farmer and Owen Evans, they destroyed the car basically yesterday, rebuilt it overnight, finishing in ninth place. A fantastic performance by them. Dave Barrow and Brian Bolwell in car number 10, 44, Crow and Bourne. In 11th place, a good effort by Possum Bourne, his first effort on the street race. And of course, Jeff Crow. And then it's Johnson and Radishich rounding out the top 12, finishing in 12th place. So thanks for joining us today. On behalf of the Three Sport crew, have done a fantastic job over the last week. It's been a great race today. The winners, the BMW team. We'll find out how good they are next week when we go to Pukekohe. See you next week. Thanks for joining us.